Hello, fellow Movie Crusaders, and welcome to our latest episode. My name is Sean Waskrug. With me, as always, is Brian Michaels. Yes, my voice does sound a little bit better, but I'm still coughing, so I apologize ahead of time. But today is another one of our more favorite videos that we love to shoot. It is our most anticipated of 2023. Last year, Brian said it in I think it was our best of episode, that it was shocking that most of our most anticipated didn't make our top 10 of the year, but most of them did at least come out. Progress, guys. Progress.
Yeah, something we were not able to say for the last 2 years.
I was like 2020, 2021 was about a 50% success rate.
Oh,
so we're
2020 was about 10% success rate.
That's very true. That's very true. Hopefully this year is just as successful in terms of seeing these movies. And hey, who knows? At least for me with my picks, I decided to be a little more not basic bitch with it. So maybe most of my picks actually maybe make it into my top 10 at the end of the year. Who knows? We have a lot of options. But both Brian and I are talking about 30 normal, and then 5 honorable mention movies that we are excited for. And here comes the coughing. That we are excited for coming out here in the following year, at least that we're expecting to come out here at the end of the year. And what I will say, looking at least my list, yes, you have your franchises, you have your comic book movies, you have your sequels, but more this year than the last few years, there's a lot of, at least I wouldn't say necessarily original, but movies that, because usually for me, like if you go to like Letterboxd or whatever and you see the list of movies, there's like, I maybe might have like 5 to 7 movies that have like no poster and just as a generic, like this is what the movie might be about. And I usually pick like maybe 5 to 7 of those. This year, I have a lot of them because so many of these movies are interesting as hell. And I'm actually really, really excited for 2023. Is it the same for you with your list?
Absolutely. I mean, like you said, there's a lot of temp posters, things like that, because a lot of these are really far out. Just the usual disclaimers off the top. Yes, they tend to be a lot of, franchises or sequels, known properties, just because those are the things that we know about, the known quantities. Yeah. But I did, like you, I try to include a lot of things that are not that, although we don't know much about those. So we had to do a lot more deep dive research. A lot of it's just based on a director or a cast or a concept, but it's enough that, has us intrigued and we put it on our list.
Yeah, they might not be necessarily rated as high. So if you see like, well, that movie sounds great, why do you have, I'm not going to say a movie because I don't want to spoil, a movie that maybe is not going to be as good higher? It's because we've seen trailers for it, or they're from previous franchises and we just know what to expect. But it's not like, our end of the year rankings where our number 23 is shit compared to our number 1. I mean, this
is clear. This is absolutely just based on the information we currently have. There could be a trailer come out tomorrow. We find out, this should not be on my list at all, or something could shoot up towards the top of my list. Sean had one today that shot farther up his list.
Exactly. I mean, if you look at the last 2 years, my number 1 movie for the last 2 years was not on my anticipated for either of those years, which was The Harder They Fall and The Woman King. Neither one of them were on my anticipated at the beginning of the year, which seems to be kind of the norm for me, is that something surprising comes in. RRR obviously was not on our list last year. Mm-hmm. Glass Onion was. But
yeah, a lot of things, there's going to be a lot of things come out that we don't know about that aren't on our radar. But this is based on the information we have now. These are our lists.
And that's the great thing too, is that if of what we know right now, assuming that in a perfect world, all of these come out. From what we know right now, this is going to be a fantastic year. And what we don't know yet, add on top of this list, dude, I'm so excited for 2023. But let's go ahead and get started. I think, how do you want to do this? I know we normally discuss this before the video, but we didn't this time. Do we want to do it as like we did with best and disappointing, where if yours is higher, you want to talk about it later, or do you just want to, let's just knock them out and talk about them together, no matter where they're ranked?
I say just knock them out and talk about them.
I was going to say, because it's anticipated. It's not like, let's just if they come up, they're going to come up. We're just going to knock them out. So if he brings up like Guardians Volume 3 right now, and it's higher up on my list, we're just going to talk about it, get it out of the way. I'm going to start with my 5 most anticipated first. These
are mentions,
what's that?
Your honorable mentions?
Yeah, what did I say?
You said my 5 most anticipated.
Sorry. Yes.
Like, you're starting at the top of the list. Okay, cool.
Yeah, I'm going 1 to 35. So that by the end of the video, when you guys stop watching it, you guys won't care. But yeah, my 5 honorable mentions. I'm doing things a little bit different this year. I actually took at least 4 of these 5. And before I kind of restructured my whole list, these were ranked higher because they were franchises and tentpole movies that we know about. But at the end of the day, I was like, am I really excited for these, or do I just have familiarity with these? So 4 out of these 5 are movies that were higher, but I dropped them down so I could bring in more unknown films onto the list. Starting at number 35, I'm a glutton for a punishment because this first one I loved 3/4 of, and then I hated the final act, and that is Meg 2: The Trench. I'm a sucker for a shark movie. I desperately want another Jaws. The Shallows was really close, but the Meg, when it came out, I was fully prepared to hate the ever living shit out of it. And for 3/4 of this movie, I was actually, wow, they're actually taking this seriously. I'm actually pleasantly surprised at how this movie is. And then they went to the final act and completely Sharknadoed the shit out of it. I wouldn't go, not that far, but they really went every cliche shark movie crap and completely ruined the movie for me. So we don't know anything about the movie other than Statham, and most of the, I think, surviving cast is going to be back for this, at least according to Letterboxd. And all we know is it's called The Trench. There's no trailer yet. I'm not going to try to keep looking up release dates for all this crap. They're just scheduled for 2023. I'm not going to waste my time doing that. But Meg 2: The Trench, if it's at least half as good, I hope they go more towards the serious route than the comedy route. But yeah, we'll see how that goes. I'm honestly prepared to be disappointed, though. Number 34, which I'm sure is going to be way higher. Or wait, was Meg on your list? I'm assuming it wasn't.
It was not. It was not.
I didn't think it was.
I'll see it, but I'm not excited because the first one disappoints me big time. So,
yeah, like I said, I'm a slut for shark movies. So, this one I know is on Brian's list and is probably way higher, probably in the top 10, and that is Fast X. Fast and Furious movies, I enjoy them, but I'm kind of over them now, especially after the last one. Fast 9 was not good. It was kind of utterly ridiculous. And frankly, I think this franchise should have ended when Paul Walker passed. I think Furious 7 was kind of the perfect send-off, the perfect ending to this franchise. And now I think we got, 2 more? This one and then 11?
Supposedly.
I think. And then we're not even counting potentially of the Hobbs and Shaws. All we really know about Fast X, I'm surprised we still haven't gotten a trailer for this yet.
I'm guessing Super Bowl.
Yeah, we know. Yeah, it probably will pop up in the Super Bowl. I know we got some new additions to the cast, but it's a Fast and Furious movie. If you've seen 9 of them, then you know what the 10th one's gonna be. Like I said, I wasn't crazy about the last 2, so that's why it's all the way down at 34. Brian, I'm sure this one's way higher on your list.
It is higher. I'll talk about where it is when I get to it. But Fast 9 was awful. I love the Fast and the Furious movies. I've been a Fast and the Furious apologist for a long time because I like all of them to different degrees, including 8. I actually very much enjoy. Although 7 would have been a very natural ending. I get that, but I still enjoyed 8. 9 was awful. 9's the only one I only ever watched once. I saw it that one time in theater.
I had not watched this at the theater.
I have never rewatched it since then. I don't know. Honestly, don't plan to unless I think that I'm going to need to do it to remember stuff going into 10.
I might have to.
I do like the new additions to it. They're adding Daniela Melchior, who was Ratcatcher 2. She's in the movie. Jason Momoa is in it. Alan Richardson from Jack Reacher.
Yeah,
he's in it. So I do like some.
I finally watched that, by the way.
Yeah,
I don't watch Reacher.
I guess I'm hoping that maybe they learn from their mistakes.
Oh no,
yeah,
wait,
right.
you forgot Gal Gadot's back.
Well, we don't know.
Even though she died, but
that's a rumor, and it's either stupid as hell or it's just.
Fast and Furious now is like a comic book movie. Just because you died does not mean you stay dead.
Well, I guess they figure she's unemployed now from Wonder Woman, so
yeah.
But I want to see it because I'm kind of hoping they get back on course, just because they are wrapping it up supposedly with these last 2, and I want to see them. This is just an ongoing thing. I probably wouldn't care, but I'm like, can we at least finish strong? Maybe it was just one bump in the road, and so it probably would have been even higher on my list if the last one was good, but it wasn't. So it is higher on my list than yours, but I'm definitely tempering my expectations.
My number 33 is a movie that I know Brian does not have on his list. He has 0 expectations for it because we both weren't crazy about the first one, and we definitely weren't crazy about the show that they did and that is MCU's The Marvels.
Mm.
Um, I didn't really like Captain Marvel, the movie, but that wasn't because of Brie Larson. I actually really liked Brie Larson. It was the film itself, not Brie's performance. But with her and I'm blanking on the actress's name who played Miss Marvel. Um,
Um, I don't remember offhand, but I have it right here. It is Iman Vellani.
yeah, I was like, I would have butchered that. That's why I got Brian here. Um, Adding them and then Maria Rambo's daughter from WandaVision to the mix. I liked like say what we want. We both did not like Miss Marvel, but it wasn't her fault. It was the writing and how they did the show. I think she was actually very, very solid in the show for what it was. But I like all three of these characters from all their respected shows and movies. So seeing all three of them together, I'm intrigued enough to actually get minimally excited for it because it's still MCU. But I'm super tempered for expectations. I'm just hoping it's not trying to be heavy-handed with the woman power stuff like Captain Marvel was. Just let the movie be the movie. We don't need it. You have three great female characters. Just let them go out there and do it. We don't need the horrifically bad soundtrack from Captain Marvel trying to tamper down all that stuff. Just let these girls go out there and just have fun with it. I know this is not on your expectations. Right?
It's not, because like you said, I wasn't a huge fan of Captain Marvel and Ms. Marvel. I really didn't like the show. Again, the actress did fine, but didn't like the show. So I'll see it. I hope it's good, but it was not on my most
Oh
anticipated.
yeah, we're definitely gonna see it. It's
Yeah.
required viewing now.
Yeah.
My number 32 is a movie. It's a movie. Let's face it, I did not think they were gonna make a third one of these. I enjoyed the first one. I think the second one was solid, not great. So the third one, I'm kind of like, yeah, we'll see what it is. And that's The Equalizer 3. Denzel is Denzel. When they let Denzel be a badass like this and Man on Fire, I am all for watching these. I just hope he doesn't start, and he won't because it's Denzel. I hope he doesn't ever go down the Liam Neeson route where every movie just is cut and paste, him just in a different setting kind of thing. But I mean, it's the Equalizer. I like his performance as the Equalizer. I like how they do his action. They don't try to ask too much of him in these movies, but what he does is effective. Of course, when the Equalizer came out, the John Wick-ish of those films was still very new, but now it's almost like the Liam Neeson things, but they're just doing it with different actors in unique different ways, which for the most part has worked. So going into a third one of these, I don't know if it's going to work again. I mean, it's Denzel. It probably will it'll be at least average. It's not going to suck, but like I said, no trailers for any of it yet. We just know that Denzel's coming back and
Reunited with Dakota Fanning from Man on
I was
Fire.
gonna say Dakota Fanning from Man on Fire. I was like, her or Chloe Grace Moretz came back, but definitely just Dakota Fanning. So that right there is why it piqued my interest because I loved them together on Man on Fire. So just to see those two back on screen, definitely she's
And her as an adult now, so yeah.
What's that?
And her as an adult now.
Yeah, so I'm interested in that. Did this make your list?
It didn't. When I was making my brainstorming list to come up with it, made like my short list. Well, my long list, I guess you call it. but it did not make my top 35.
All right. And then my last honorable mention, this one is one of those that outside of a synopsis, I really don't know much about it. And that is a movie called We Have a Ghost. I'm just going to read what it's about. It's directed by Christopher Landon, who we both really, really, really like. And that is the real sell point besides the second lead. But basically the synopsis is, after Kevin finds a ghost named Ernest haunting his new home, he becomes an overnight social media sensation. But when Kevin and Ernest go rogue to investigate the mystery of the latter's past, they become targets of the CIA. And the two leads are Anthony Mackie and David Harbour. That right there, plus adding Christopher Landon as a director, I'm sold on this. It's the rest of the cast that has me kind of tempered because I did have this higher, but the rest of the cast, I mean, you got Jennifer Coolidge, who, I mean, she's fine. Tig Notaro, I'm wish-washy on. And the rest of the cast is not really much anything after that. It might just be one of those movies where it's really just about these two, and then everyone else just is kind of, seasoning on it. But with Landon, Harbour coming off of Violent Night, and of course, I like Mackie and pretty much everything he does. This could be a surprise hit of the year. Was this on your list?
Yeah, it's much higher on my list, primarily because of Christopher Landon. Of course, because the Happy Death Day movies and Freaky. And I also like the Scout's Guide to the Apocalypse, Zombie Apocalypse. So for me, I just his brand of horror comedy just totally works, and so anything he does, I'm game for. And then add on a strong couple leads like that, and yeah, it's way higher on my list.
All right. Go ahead with your honorable mentions.
All right, my honorable mentions. I'm going to start with a few that are only honorable mentions because I'm not sure they're actually coming out. My number 5, as a result, is Ghostbusters Afterlife. My number 35.
I want to preface this.
Okay.
This was like in my top 10, but Brian was like, Sean, there's no way that's coming out this year. Sean, there's no way this is coming out this year. I was like, fine, I'll take it off my list. He's like, I'll honorable mention it for you. So this is 100% on my list, but I took it off.
If I know for sure this is coming off, this would probably be top 10 for me. Here's the thing, though. I mean, they set this date, December 20th, I believe. At least at like last summer, I think it's the first time I saw them actually announce this date. And I'm like, okay, that's, kind of fast considering we haven't heard much about it, but it could happen. But then they didn't even attach a director to it until last month, who is one of the writers of the previous one, Gil Keenan. And of course, Jason Reitman's still on as a producer and stuff like that. But the problem is, so that means we're now essentially 11 months away from this movie coming out. They haven't even begun production on it. I mean, they could have been doing pre-production, but there's no filming. And with a movie like this that has so many special effects they need, I would love to be wrong. I hope this comes out. It's just what's on my anticipated as an honorable mention, but I just don't see them making that December date. I think it's pushed to like spring of next year.
I think right now, if we don't hear anything by April, this movie's coming out in the summer of next year. I think. Yeah. I don't a Christmas movie in general for this. I don't think would work unless it's going to take place.
Well, the last one came out at like Thanksgiving, I believe.
I know that, but like honestly, I mean, the poster says Firehouse. That's like the code.
Well, that's not an official poster.
I know it's not, okay. But I know the way Afterlife ended, it made it seem like Ernie Hudson was getting restarting up in New York. If they were going to make this a Christmas Ghostbusters movie, which, first off, that'd be brilliant.
That'd be awesome.
I would be all for that. Then yeah, that December 20th date makes sense. But if it's gonna be just a normal Ghostbusters movie, which is not a bad thing, I wouldn't drop it in Christmas. I would drop it in the summer because that's a summer essence.
I think they're just kind of thinking of a tentpole kind of movie that families can go see together, and they thought this would work. And like I said, I hope it comes out. I just don't see it happen.
Yeah, so it is on my list, but it's not on my list. So
yeah. My number 34 is a similar one that I've heard of for the last year or two. I think it's been filmed. I don't know, but it has a cast and everything assembled. It's a movie called Coyote versus Acme. This is basically Wile E. Coyote gets an attorney to sue Acme for all the accidents he's had over the years and things like this. It's a hybrid live action animation. John Cena, Will Forte, I think, are two of the main leads. It's definitely got a comedy thing going to it. A lot of Condor is in there. The problem is I've heard nothing on this movie. At one point I thought maybe it's going to be an HBO Max movie, but I haven't heard that. Then I thought maybe this movie isn't actually happening, but then I've seen social media posts and things from like John Cena, who, I think it's actually filmed. But again, we have not heard a single thing about it. But Wile E. Coyote is one of my two favorite Looney Tunes characters, the other one being Pepe Le Pew. I don't care. You can try and cancel him. He's still cool. But so, I mean, I'm really looking forward to this because I like a good, live action animation hybrid when they're good, especially in comedy. And John Cena has shown he can do comedy real well. And Will Forte I've always liked. So if this comes out, I'm looking forward to it.
This is number 20 on my list. If this is even remotely close to Chippendale Rescue Rangers, which was my most surprising film of 2022, and I think you're third, then I will be happy. John Cena, especially after Suicide Squad and Peacemaker, has proven, I mean, he was funny before that, but he has really stepped up in his comedy abilities. Will Forte's Will Forte. I'm interested in seeing, because I don't think they've announced who's playing what. I'm interested to see if Cena is the lawyer or if he's Wile E. or Forte, vice versa. Either way, I'm excited for this. Or like I said, Cena, because he's Cena, he probably is playing, like a live version instead of the cartoon version. Mm-hmm. But yeah, this is number 20. If it's even remotely close to Chippendale, I know it's not gonna have the meta-ness of it, but it very, very well could.
I was looking at like the writers and directors behind this. Is really nobody of note, unlike having the Lonely Island guys write the other one. So we knew the comedy sensibilities going into that. but this one is kind of a question mark. So
Yeah, this is
hopefully.
one that I am very excited for based off of just because I also Wile E. Coyote and Roadrunner were two of my every time they popped up on Looney Tunes, I loved it. Come next to Tasmanian Devil, which was my favorite. So I'm super excited for this. This is my number 20 for the year.
So my third honorable mention is The Crow, which since 1994 when the first one came out, they've been talking about, well, okay, they made sequels, but we pretend those don't exist. But for 20 years now, they've been talking about rebooting The Crow with everybody from Jason Momoa to Eminem at one point to I don't remember. There's like 5 of the names attached. There's been lots of directors attached to it. It's come and gone. It's never happened. This movie, again, I was like, this is not going to happen. But supposedly it's filmed. It's done. Whether or not it comes out this year, I don't know. But it's this is directed by Rupert Sanders, who is a name you might recognize from he did like Snow White and the Huntsman, Ghost in the Shell. So I mean, movies that aren't big critical hits, but competent directing. I mean, for a big budget kind of thing. But the thing that gets me is Bill Skarsgård is playing the lead in this movie. So I guess he just likes that makeup. It is.
He's just like looking creepy. That's just a stick.
Yeah, he's just a creepy looking dude. So again, this is one that if it comes out, I am very intrigued to see it. Of all the versions of The Crow that I heard almost happened, this is probably the one that actually has me most intrigued. And this one supposedly is actually filmed. So we'll see if it actually comes out this year.
This is not on my list, and this might actually finally make me watch The Crow for the first time.
Oh, you've never seen the first one?
No, I've never seen it because every hot topic grungy goth like kid was like The Crow, and I was like, I
see. Well, you have that, and probably at this point it's overhyped, so probably watch it and be like that.
And the whole Brandon Lee of it all. That I was just like, whatever. But if this looks good, then I will watch The Crow finally this year, kind of like Top Gun with Top Gun Maverick. So maybe we'll see, but it's not on my list.
Okay, my last 2 honorable mentions are coming out this year, in theory. The first one being Zack Snyder's Rebel Moon. Zack Snyder is extremely hit and miss for me. His last one, Army of the Dead, had some good things to it, but it had a lot of bad things to it. It should have been just an awesome movie, and instead it was kind of like
It was a heist movie.
Yeah. Well, that's just it. I like the heist movie of it all, and actually the zombies, like the opening scene with the zombies, like the zombie land kind of thing.
The opening was phenomenal.
That was awesome. And then it just kind of forgot the movie it wanted to be for a long time. So I'm looking forward to this one. This is a big sci-fi blockbuster kind of movie. It's supposedly the first of a couple that Zack Snyder's doing for Netflix. The cast on this one includes Sophia Boutella, Charlie Hunnam, Jaimin Hunsu, Ed Skrein, Anthony Hopkins, Ray Fisher, Carrie Owens, Jenna Malone, Corey Stoll, goes on and on. It's like no huge names, but a lot of people that have been solid in movies
that we like.
Yeah, that we like. The log line is just a young woman with a mysterious past is dispatched to seek warriors from neighboring planets to take a stand against the armies of a tyrannical region. Basically, people are saying this is probably basically his Dune. It's kind of the same kind of tone to it, just as far as it's a sci-fi kind of drama epic with action in it.
And tons of slow-mo.
I don't know a whole lot about this movie. I hope it's good. I want to like Zack Snyder movies when they come out. Just a lot of times they kind of are just a miss for me. Is this on your list?
No, because I didn't know this was a thing. So,
well, this is a thing. It's been a thing for a couple of years now, but I guess it's finally coming out this year. And my last honorable mention is again filmed. We'll see if it actually gets released this year, like it's supposed to. Again for Netflix, Beverly Hills Cop: Axel Foley. Is Eddie Murphy still funny? Hard to say. Coming to America was a bit of a disappointment, to say the least. Some of the other stuff he's done, he hasn't popped up in a lot. When he has, it's been okay.
Dolomite, he was great.
What's that?
He was great in Dolomite.
Yeah, and Dolomite's good. This one, I mean, it's got Eddie Murphy, Joseph Gordon-Levitt's in it. They're bringing back like Judge Reinhold, John Ashton, Paul Reiser, Bronson Pinchot, Kevin Bacon's in it. I don't know anything about the plot of it or anything like that. All I know is I want this to be good. Again, the third one was not great, but Eddie Murphy, just in general, I want him to come back and be the comedy superstar that he was. And so this is probably his last best bet at that. So we'll see if this hits.
Not on my list because I went back and rewatched the Beverly Hills Cops movies this year. I think it's the first time I think at an adult age that I've watched them all. And the first one's great. And 2 and 3 are just kind of eh. So I'm not excited for this. I will watch it. I will definitely watch it. Seeing Eddie Murphy back in the Detroit Lions jacket, I'm intrigued. Plus, the cast is solid, but I need to see.
Yeah, the Thomas didn't make my list at all, but I decided, you know what, I'll put it in as an honorable mention.
Yeah, this is definitely more of a Brian movie than mine because of just the time frame of it, but definitely more Brian. So those are our honorable mentions. Now cracking into our top 30. My number 30. Let me pull it up so I can at least describe it here. Is Next Goal Wins. This is a movie directed by Taika Waititi, and basically the synopsis is Dutch coach Thomas Rongen attempts the nearly impossible task of turning the America Samoa soccer team from perennial losers into winners. In terms of cast, you got Michael Fassbender, who's playing the coach. You got Elizabeth Moss, who Brian is not a fan of. And then you got Will Arnett, it's Will Arnett. And then, of course, you got, tons of actors of Samoan descent, which we probably don't really recognize any of them. But when we see him on screen, we're like, oh, I remember that guy from probably Hobbs and Shaw. Let's be real.
Probably other Taika Waititi movies, honestly.
Yeah, that too. So, sports movie, check. Taika Waititi directing it. If it's anything, it's not going to be Jojo Rabbit. Jojo Rabbit's, time of that one is Jojo Rabbit. But if he can bring that kind of energy, maybe with a little bit of What We Do in the Shadows-esque to it, and less Thor, and kind of make this a funny sports film, then this is going to be right in my wheelhouse. But I just don't know enough about it outside of Taika, Fassbender, and soccer, which this thing can really, really, really piggyback off of Ted Lasso in terms of trying to make this more eye-catching to fans who maybe don't pay attention to Taika like we do. But Ted Lasso's entering its final season this year. Everyone is watching it, even though Brian thinks it's overrated. I think it's flipping amazing. If this came out around the same time as Ted Lasso, I think that's actually going to help this movie out immensely, which is why it's number 30 on my list. Did this crack your list at all?
It was on my brainstorming list. It didn't make my final list. I am intrigued to see it. I think this is like Taika Waititi, kind of like Joss Whedon when he did the first Avengers movie. He followed it up immediately with Much Ado About Nothing, as small as a movie could be, just something that was simple, basically him and his friends hanging out at his house filming an easy movie without special effects spectacle. And I kind of feel like that's kind of what Taika Waititi did here. He made Thor. We made his Oscar movie with Jojo Rabbit, and then he made Thor: Love and Thunder. And it's you know what? Let me just do something that's back, kind of more personal. It's just people, no special effects. It seems like it has to do probably with New Zealand and that kind of thing. So I think that it's going to be a more personal movie for him. But yeah, based on Taika Waititi and Michael Fassbender alone, I'm definitely interested to see it. It just didn't make my list.
What was your number 30?
My number 30 is a movie called Distant, which could be released as soon as late this month or who knows when, because I've seen dates all over the place. This is a sci-fi movie, essentially, starring Anthony Ramos and Naomi Scott. I think Zachary Quinto is in there as well. After crash landing on an alien planet, an asteroid miner must contend with the challenges of his new surroundings while making his way across the harsh terrain to the only other survivor, a woman who is trapped in her escape pod. This one basically intrigued me. Anthony Ramos, who we want to be a huge star. We love In the Heights. I've loved him when he's popped up in small roles in other movies as well. Naomi Scott, who, I didn't love Aladdin, but I thought she was good in it. Even in Charlie's Angels, I thought she did a good job.
Power Rangers, she was good in.
Yeah. It's directed by Josh Gordon and Will Speck, which this is where it gets weird because they've done Office Christmas Party, The Switch, Blades of Glory, and Lyle Crocodile. Not what screams sci-fi adventure or even sci-fi drama. So this is clearly it's not a comedy. So it's not anything we have to judge against their previous works, except that they can direct movies, apparently. So I'm very curious about this one, based mainly on the cast.
All right. Not on my list. It was until Brian made me condense the list down to 35 because I had 50. But this one ended up on the cutting room floor. But yeah, Anthony Ramos, I love, and then of course Naomi Scott, I'm a huge fan of. So I'm definitely intrigued by this. Once we eventually get a trailer for it. My number 29, just on principle, kind of like the Meg, I had to put this on here, but I'm not necessarily excited for it until I see an actual trailer proving that A, it's gonna work, and B, it actually looks good. And that's Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem. Seth Rogen, that's the big thing for me, is Seth Rogen's trying to take this over. If it's anything remotely close to the 2011 Nickelodeon series or 2013 Nickelodeon series, I am 100,000% on board. If it's anything like the last series they did on Nickelodeon, then I am 100% off board. Not probably going to watch it or check it out because I hated that series. I've been a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles fan since the original cartoon came out in the 80s. I've watched pretty much almost every rendition that they've done of this, plus the movies. So once again, this is a new rebooted version of it with Seth Rogen behind the wheel. So I'm optimistic, but I'm hesitant at the same time. I would think this is not on your list.
It's not. Do we have confirmation if this is animated or live action?
It's animated.
It is animated.
It is.
Okay.
It is animated.
Okay. Yeah, it was again on my brainstorming list. Until I get more information, though, I couldn't put it on my final list.
Yeah. And what is your 29?
My 29 is They Cloned Tyrone. This is another Netflix movie. They put out a short teaser for it, I think, when they did like their coming soon on Netflix a few months ago. This is a movie basically starring John Boyega, Teyonah Parris, and Jamie Foxx are the three main
Why
leads
does
of it.
part of me feel like this movie already got released?
Well, because I think it was supposed to come out this year. That's why I think it was on one of their like coming soon on Netflix things.
I gotcha.
Might have been like mid-year, I think. So maybe it's supposed to come out the end of this year instead, or last year instead come out this year. An unlikely trio investigates a series of eerie events, alerting them to the nefarious conspiracy lurking directly beneath their hood. Again, I don't know a whole lot about this movie. I love the cast. That short teaser, really, I just love the style of it. So I really have nothing more to say. That based on that, I was very intrigued and it made my anticipated list.
I love that we're already at 28 and we've only, I think, had like one or two crossovers so far. I know that we're gonna have a ton of crossover coming up, but I love that so far it's all been unique new films and we haven't crossed that far yet. I think this one though we are gonna cross. My number 28, and I'm gonna pull it up here real quick, is a movie that I honest to God think that I have not ever seen the original. I think I've seen parts of it. Just like I mentioned with like Top Gun during our best of episode, or I think it was it was our best of, where I was like, as a kid, this thing was on all the time, but I don't think I've ever actually watched this from beginning to end. Okay, but they're making a new one this year, and that is Roadhouse. Roadhouse. Directed by Doug Liman, a former UFC fighter, so they definitely made it more of today. A former UFC fighter takes a job as a bouncer at a rough and tumble roadhouse in the Florida Keys, but soon discovers that not everything is what it seems in this tropical paradise. What sells me on this is that it's Jake Gyllenhaal. Hell yeah. I'm 100% on board. Also, Conor McGregor is in it. Billy Magnuson is great, which I loved him in Game Night.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I really enjoyed him in Game Night. Travis Van Winkle, that's a name I feel like I haven't heard of in forever. He's just kind of like a generic pretty boy, but I actually saw his name and immediately was like, oh yeah.
For a moment, I thought it was Vanilla Ice. I'm like, no, wait, that's Rob Van Winkle.
No. Travis Van Winkle is definitely not vanilla. But yeah, I don't think I've seen.
And Ratcatcher 2 again, Daniela Melchior.
Yes, and I don't think I've seen the original Roadhouse from beginning to end. I've seen, I think, probably about 60% of it. But if Jake Gyllenhaal's playing Swayze, which I'm pretty positive he is, then I am 100% on board. Plus, Doug Liman is directing it, so this is gonna be fun. Whether it's good is a different thing, but fun is definitely going to be on board with this. And I'm sure this is on your list.
Yeah, this was actually it's just 2 spots higher on my list. It's at number 26. Doug Liman, I love. Mr. and Mrs. Smith, it's one of the best action comedies, hybrids, 100%. For me of all time.
Yeah.
And so I think he's going to handle this well. I think Jake Gyllenhaal can play this role well. I'm pretty sure he won't have the same mullet, though, since it's not 1989 anymore.
Part of me wonders if he doesn't, he doesn't. But if he does, ballsy, and I'm intrigued even more.
No, I think if anything, maybe they'll have at the beginning, and they'll say, get rid of that and chop it off.
But I feel like they'll have more of like his like southpaw.
Yeah, I think I've seen set pics from it at one point, and I'm pretty sure he didn't have it. I would have remembered that. So,
gotcha.
But yeah, this is definitely on my list, just a couple spots higher than yours.
All right. What was your 28?
My 28 is a movie called The Last Voyage of the Demeter. This is a movie. Basically, it's basically the ship that carried Dracula when he went from where was Transylvania to his coffin to London, I think it was. The merchant ship Demeter chartered to carry 50 unmarked wooden crates from Carpathia to London, only for its doomed crew to endure strange events. Stalked each night by a merciless presence on board the ship, the Demeter eventually arrives off the shores of England as a charred, derelict wreck with no trace of the crew. So it's basically kind of a Dracula adjacent story. I mean, it clearly has Dracula or some kind of vampire involved, but it's not the traditional Dracula story. It's kind of like one of those stories, like here's what happened in this chapter that we just kind of fast forwarded over. So I thought that sounded very intriguing, just as an idea for a story. It's from the director who did The Autopsy of Jane Doe, which I thought, while it was not perfect, it had a great atmosphere to it.
Yeah, that's a sleeper. That's a sleeper hit.
You got David Dastmalchian as, I believe, essentially the lead role, and I'm glad because he deserves to have a good lead role, and I think he'll work perfectly in this. It also has Corey Hawkins in it, Liam Cunningham, not really any other big names, but just the concept alone has me interested.
Not on my list, but I'm intrigued by it based off the cast alone and the concept of it being a Dracula kind of boat horror film. So if it's anything remotely close to what I have in my head, that should be a lot of fun. My number 27 is a movie that another one I don't know a lot about, but based off of the director, the synopsis, and at least the three main leads, I'm intrigued, and that is Havoc. Havoc is directed by Gareth Evans, the guy who did both Raid films. If that hasn't locked you in from there, the cast stars Tom Hardy, Forrest Whitaker, and our boy Timothy Olyphant. It basically is after a drug deal gone wrong, a bruised detective must fight his way through a criminal underworld to rescue a politician's estranged son while unraveling a deep web of corruption and conspiracy that ensnares his entire city. Tom Hardy loves doing kind of weird roles. And then you bring in someone like Gareth Evans, who did the Raids. I wish he would have done our favorite film, The Night Comes for Us. But you add that element there. There's a lot of cast in there that is probably going to be more of those martial arts X kind of people. I'm definitely intrigued. Plus, Oliphant. I'm 100%. Anything Timothy Olyphant, we're always going to watch. So that one, when I read that, it immediately piqued my interest. Did this crack your list?
This is much higher on my list. This is in my top 10. I'll tell you that right now.
Really?
And that is based purely on the fact that, well, it's based on a graphic novel, but Gareth Evans is the number one draw for me because the Raid movies are phenomenal in their action and just the fight choreography, things like that. And then to take seasoned actors like Tom Hardy and Timothy Olyphant and put them into his kind of action world. And based on this, it's probably going to have a little bit more of a solid story to it. Whereas the Raid movies were cool fight scenes, but there wasn't a whole lot of story to them. And this being based on a graphic novel, they got a good basis for it. And so I'm really excited to see what happens with this movie. The first trailer will decide for me if it remains in my top 10 or not, but we'll see.
You're 27?
My 27 is Extraction 2. The first Extraction, of course, being Chris Hemsworth movie from that was a Netflix one, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I always forget which streaming service is which. The first question: how is it a sequel to Chris Hemsworth? He's dead as far as we know. Apparently not.
Yeah, he was pretty much looked like he died at the end of the
it was but it was successful, and Netflix wants to make more, so there's a sequel. Maybe it's a prequel. Who knows what it is? I don't know anything about it. But I really enjoyed the first one. Again, the story was one of those ones very simply just trying to get this person from here to here, essentially. But it was about how the action was done. Now, the first one and this one were directed by a stuntman and stunt choreographer. Kind of, he came from the same world as like David Leitch and Chad Stahelski, who did the John Wick movies and Atomic Blonde and all those kind of things. Bullet Train, of course. So I really love when these stunt people are now turning into directors because they turn out some of the best action we've seen. Extraction, the first one, of course, is famous for this one seemingly single shot fight. It goes from a car chase to a foot chase to a gunfight to everything. There's like a 5-minute scene. I think it looks like one shot the way it's stitched together. And so that kind of creativity, I'm hoping to see more of that in this movie. Again, I don't know when it's coming out. I don't know the details of the plot, but just based on the first one and that, I'm interested.
Yeah, Did not put this on my list because like the first one, I actually thought it was solid. The action is great. But like you, he died at the end of that first movie. He got shot in the throat and like dropped off a bridge. Like, come on. But yeah, I'm intrigued by it. Like, I definitely will watch this when it comes out, but it just did not crack my list. My number 26th is another one of these movies that we don't know a whole lot about, but just based off of director and the leads, I decided to put it on here, and that is Ghosted. Ghosted is directed by Dexter Fletcher, who I loved from Eddie the Eagle, and oh god, there's another one I'm blanking on it. Eddie the
Fletcher?
Eagle. What's that?
You talking about Dexter Fletcher? He also did like Bohemian Rhapsody and some other stuff.
No, he did Rocket Man.
Oh.
Yeah, he did Rocket Man, Eddie the Eagle. Apparently, he's supposed to be doing the third Robert Downey Jr. Sherlock film, which who knows if that'll ever get made.
I don't know if it's ever gonna be made.
All we know, there's not a whole much of a plot yet. All it says is that it's described as a high-concept romantic action adventure in the vein of Romancing the Stone, which, okay. And it's got Chris Evans, Ana de Armas, Adrian Brody, Tim Blake Nelson, Amy Sedaris, which were like, and Tate Donovan, who I actually like. Chris Evans and Ana de Armas, I mean, they're back again from Knives Out, which I thought they worked really, really well together in Knives Out. Plus, you put Dexter Fletcher's touch to it with a Romancing the Stone kind of plot or esque kind of film. I'm all for this. So we'll see when we finally get a trailer for it. But this was one that definitely piqued my interest. Did this crack your list?
Yeah, Chris Evans, Ana de Armas alone, reunited. It's number 18 on my list.
So far, my list has crossed into yours, but yours has not crossed into mine.
Well, my number 26 is Roadhouse, which you've already covered. So there you
go. Then go ahead with your 25 then.
My 25 is, I believe, another Netflix movie. I'm not 100% certain on that though. It's Red One. It's a Christmas movie. Should be coming out next Christmas. This one stars again. You have Chris Evans and The Rock. Dwayne Johnson's in it. J.K. Simmons is in it. It's directed by Jake Kasdan, who did like the Jumanji movies and Walk Hard. Not a lot is known about the plot. It's some kind of an action adventure comedy Christmas film. It looks like J.K. Simmons got back in his buff mode again, so I'm curious to see where they're going with that.
He's supposed to be Santa.
Yeah, it almost seems the fact it's called Red One makes me think of some kind of like military angle on Santa. Or I don't know if they need to rescue Santa or what it is. There's not a lot of details out there known, but this is one based on the director and cast alone. It made the lower end of my list.
My number 25 is also Red One. I did not think that you and I would have gotten that like spot on. Like up in the top like the top 10, yes, but 25, both of us are the same one. Yeah, Rock, Chris Evans, J.K. Simmons, of course. I'm intrigued by this. Like I said, not a lot is known. I think we have like a couple set photos, and then of course a lot of J.K. like getting ripped for it. So that's all we really know about it. But I mean, this is gonna be like Spirited. We're probably not gonna know anything about it till November. So we got a long ways to go before we find out about that.
Maybe J.K. can team up with David Harbour and have a Santa Claus fight.
No. Triple threat match. Harbour, J.K., and Kurt Russell. Santa off. I want to see that fight. Going to my 24 is a movie that I think this movie has been the most of me asking Brian, is this really going to come out? And Brian going, yeah, they filmed it. It's done. And I was like, really though? He's like, yeah, it is. And that is Kraven the Hunter. The only reason this movie is up as high as it is, like, I love Spider-Man. Spider-Man outside of Wolverine is my favorite comic book character or hero. And even though Spider-Man is probably not going to be in this movie at all, I really, really doubt he will. The only thing that sells me on this movie, outside, Ariana DeBose, who was great in West Side Story, and Russell Crowe's in it, but our boy Aaron Taylor Johnson is the lead. We've so badly wanted Aaron Taylor Johnson to finally get recognized outside of Kick-Ass. He was great in Bullet Train last year. He was also one of the shining small moments in Tenet when everyone it was like, he's in the movie. He's like, yeah, he is, and he's great in it. You just never really get a good shot of his face in the movie. But he is Kraven the Hunter, and I am 100% on board to watch him be the lead in this. I'm hoping it's not a Morbius situation. I really, really hope it's not. But I need to see Aaron Taylor Johnson in another lead role, and he is going to be shredded for this role. I know you were probably in the same boat with me on this, but did this crack your list?
This cracked much higher on my list, actually, and it's based purely on Aaron Taylor Johnson, a little bit of Ariana DeBose, but it's essentially because of Aaron Taylor Johnson that it's on my list at all, much less as high as it is. I believe is it Russell Crowe's in that as well?
Yeah, Russell
Yeah,
Crowe is probably the villain or his
Alexander
trainer.
Nicola. Yeah, um, I kind of feel like one thing Sony has always done. Sony makes big mistakes, especially in their Spider-Verse movies, but then they always, I think, learn from them. Spider-Man 3 didn't do well. Like, you know what? Let's reboot. They started doing the Amazing Spider-Man movies, and that's when they started announcing like all kinds of different things. They were playing a Sinister Six. They had
Well, that was
big
because
plans.
MCU and
then after a movie or two, they're like, you know what? We overreached. We're scrap that. So they're not afraid to be like, okay, let's learn from our mistakes. I think with Morbius, I think they learned, you know what? If we're going to do these other characters, they can exist in the Spider-Man universe, but let's not try so desperately to have it be tied together. We have the rights to these characters. Let's just use these characters in a movie for them. And I also wonder if that's part of the reason this thing's been pushed back a couple times now. It's supposed to come out, I think, originally last spring.
Well, they also have is it Madam Web as well?
Yeah, so that moved to fall, and then it moved to I believe January, and now it's coming out. I don't even know when it's coming out now. I think it's like February. I think, or no, it's later in the year, I believe. So I think that hopefully they have learned from their mistakes. Aaron Taylor Johnson, just in kind of that fierce, action role, I think he can do really well. We've seen him obviously in things like Bullet Train, but also if you ever seen like Savages or The Wall, a military movie he did, he was very good in those. So yeah, I'm super excited for this movie. It could be a complete disaster, absolutely could be. But as far as my anticipation and hopefulness, I'm looking forward to.
You're
And
24.
that one, it's October 6th now. That one's coming out.
Okay.
My 24 is a movie that's probably higher on your list. This director has never done it for me like he does for most people, or at least a lot of people, and that is Oppenheimer from Christopher Nolan. This movie was probably not even going to make my most anticipated list. It's one of those movies that like I would see, but wasn't like even with Dunkirk and what was his last one? He's came out? Oh, Tenet. They're movies that like, you know what? I'm going to see them. They'll probably be well made, but I'm not super excited about them. That's kind of where I was in this one until actually I saw a full trailer for it somewhat recently. I think maybe in front of Avatar.
Yeah, it was Avatar.
And I'm actually a lot more intrigued by it now. So it's still not like the upper tier of my list, but I'm still very interested in seeing this movie. I mean, you got Cillian Murphy, you got Emily Blunt, Florence Pugh, Matt Damon, Dane DeHaan, Kenneth Branagh, Josh Hartnett, Gary Oldman, Robert Downey Jr. I mean, come on, this is a huge. I'm halfway down the list. Alden Ehrenreich, Rami Malek, Alex Wolff, Casey Affleck. It just goes on and on. Jack Quaid. But I'll stop because there's a lot of names to read here. I wasn't sure how they would make this kind of an interesting story, but just the trailer alone, that kind of tone of it, I think that this could be something special.
See, you're gonna hear this, but usually the opposite, where the trailer makes me happy, and Brian's like, I was disappointed by the trailer, so it's actually lower and it's higher for me. This is the opposite, because this was higher because it's Nolan, and then I saw the trailer and I was kind of disappointed because most of the trailer was this orange hue and just a close up of
Cillian Murphy.
Yeah, Cillian Murphy's face. I'm just like, with the cast that's in this movie and most of the trailer is just a close-up shot of Murphy's face, I was kind of like, is this going to be boring? Is this not going to be exciting? So this is actually my number 23. So it was actually right around here.
Almost did it again.
Almost did it again. This was a top 10. This was like as high as 6 at one point. And then I saw that trailer on Avatar and it dropped all the way down. Not off the list because it's still Nolan. And that cast is ridiculous. But hopefully that cast is an actual cast and not like Robert Downey Jr. walks on screen for one scene, does Robert Downey Jr. and then goes off screen.
I think with a cast this size, I think a lot of them are going to be small roles. But
the problem is what I don't
as long as they're used well.
Happen, and what I'm worried is that this is Murphy's movie. But what I don't want it to be is this amazingly stacked cast overshadow his performance to the point where you care or want to watch other people on the screen and not Murphy. Murphy has the ability to do that, but with all that cast and people flogging to this movie probably for that cast, the last thing I wanted to do is have Murphy be overshadowed by lesser characters in the film because of their names. And that's what I'm worried about when it comes to Oppenheimer, is that Murphy, while probably will have a great performance in this, will be overshadowed because of everyone else in this film. And I hope I'm wrong. I want to be wrong. I want to, like, because Tenet was honestly, for action as it was boring as shit. Dunkirk, I don't understand why everyone's got a hard on for Dunkirk. It was boring as shit.
Don't get me started on Interstellar. Yeah.
And Interstellar was better watching it a year after it came out than it was when it came out right away. So the last three Nolans were not hits for me. And then you can even go to Dark Knight Rises, but I actually like Dark Knight Rises. So Nolan's kind of dropping down the list for me. So I want this to be great. I really, really do, but I am really hesitant and worried about it based off of that amazingly stacked cast. And I'm afraid Murphy is either going to have an Oscar-worthy performance or he's going to get crushed. And I hope it's the former, not the latter. But that was my number 23. So go ahead and go with your 23.
My 23 is a movie called Boy Kills World. This is Bill Skarsgård's second entry on my list. This is one of those movies, it's a big question mark. So once I see a trailer or something, could go way up, could go off the list. I don't know. But it's Bill Skarsgård, and Jessica Rothy is the female lead. You might know her from the Happy Death Day movies.
Wow, we haven't seen her in, I think, since
yeah, she's shown up in some small movies. I remember she showed up in some like a romantic drama movie that came out, a couple things. But this is kind of her first big role in a while. And more importantly, the third person billed is Yahya Ruhian, who you don't know who he is, but it's not his name. He is one of the guys from the Raid movies, and I believe he also has a small part in Night Constructs, I think. But if you look this guy up, you'll recognize him. He was the one who, along with Iko Uwais, was actually in Star Wars: The Force Awakens as well. But this guy's just...
I know who you're talking about then.
Yeah, this is a kick-ass martial artist. So this is going to have some cool action to it. The log line is a one-of-a-kind action spectacle set in a dystopian fever dream reality. The boy is a deaf mute with a vibrant imagination. When his family is murdered, he escapes the jungle and is trained by a mysterious shaman, that's Yahya Ruhian, to repress his childish imagination and become an instrument of death. So, yeah, just based on the fact that it's kind of Raid adjacent, it seems like, in terms of having Yahya be teaching him his training him and his martial arts and things like that. Bill Skarsgård in action mode, Jessica Rothy. You got me.
A lot of that might ride on the boys acting. Yeah, a lot of that might.
Boy, Bill Skarsgård. This character is called Boy. That's him.
Oh, so it's Skarsgård.
Yes.
Okay. When you said a boy and his parents were killed, I was thinking like, okay, it's a young kid.
No, it just call him Boy. So I think I wonder if maybe happens like he starts out as a child, or the movie just never has a name, kind of thing.
Okay. I was gonna say, like, a lot of this seems like it's gonna write on this a young actor doing well.
Yeah,
but
no,
if it's Skarsgård, then okay, we're fine. We're
Okay.
fine. Not on my list because once again didn't know. Brian finds these movies. Like, I'll go on Letterboxd and I'll go to like 2023 and I'll look through like the first 3 pages, because after the first 3, then it's just like I don't know if any of these things are real films or what. Brian will then go like to page like 12 and find shit.
Oh, you gotta go away from Letterboxd. You gotta start Googling information and stuff, and I look all kinds of places.
See, I Google and I just get the same 10 films, and so I stick with Letterboxd just because at least that gives me like a big robust list. Whereas like I don't know where you go, but every time where I go, I just get the same top 10 list from here. My number 22 is a movie that is going to be big. It's a Netflix film. The last time he did a Netflix film, he got nominated for Best Picture, and that is Martin Scorsese's Killers of the Flower Moon. Scorsese back again with Leo. You know that combination there is deadly. Leo, is back at it. Jesse Plemons, yes, he's in a Scorsese film. Eyes on Jesse Plemons. He deserves it so much. De Niro's back as well. Brendan Fraser coming off of The Whale. John Lithgow, who I love. Just some of the names in that film. The plot line for Killers of the Flower Moon is based on David Grant's broadly lauded, that just sounds wrong in my head, best-selling book, Killers of the Flower Moon, is set in the 1920s Oklahoma and depicts the serial murder of members of the oil-wealthy Osage Nation, a string of brutal crimes that came to be known as the Reign of Terror. So, that sounds intriguing as hell. Plus with Leo and De Niro and Fraser and all them in this. and Scorsese directing it, as long as it's not another snooze fest that the Irishman was, then I am 100% on board. Hopefully, it's not 4 hours long. But I like Scorsese. I do think over the last few years, he's kind of got to up his own ass because of his hate for comic book movies. But he's still a phenomenal director. He is. Not the Irishman, though, but he is a fantastic director. And him and Leo are a perfect combination. I'm one of the biggest defenders of Shutter Island. I think Shutter Island was a fantastic film that applauded. Wolf of Wall Street is fucking amazing. And so Leo and Scorsese, to me, is a perfect mix. Add Clemens and them into this, and based off of that plot, I actually am super intrigued for this. But this is a Netflix film too, as well. But I'm sure this is going to be one of those November-led films. It's also going to be in theaters, so that way you get the Oscar buzz around it because it is Scorsese, and anytime he is directing, it's an Oscar buzz kind of film. Plus with that cast, so here's hoping it's good and not a snooze fest like Irishman. Did this crack your list or not?
No, Scorsese is not the director for me. Occasionally he'll make one that I enjoy, but for the most part, it's just not a director that I tend to
I
go
like
to.
more of his latter films than his earlier films.
I, mean,
Like,
I like The Departed. I like Wolf
Yeah.
of Wall Street. I like Gangs of New York.
Gangs
so
of New York, I
actually,
think, is really good too. Yeah.
so when he's with DiCaprio, I generally like him. I'm not a fan of Shutter Island. Not a fan of The Aviator entirely. But I mean, it's another one that I'll watch it and I hope it's good. But I'm not going to put it on my list based on Scorsese.
All right. You're 22?
My 20. Where are we now? 22.
Yeah, I think you're
No,
22.
is one that dropped to 22 for me today, went up for Sean. That's Renfield. This is one that I was like, oh, this is going to be one nobody's heard of. I'm going to put on my list, and it's going to be kind of
The
nowhere.
trailer just dropped today. Obviously, this video's not going to come out today.
It hit today.
Yeah.
All I knew about this originally was it's going to have Nicholas Hoult as Renfield, who, if you know the Dracula story, he's kind of the one that Dracula kind of makes his assistant. So he's like kind of always with, he's like his Igor, essentially, like kind of helping do his bidding, taking care of him when he has to, be asleep during the day, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
So I knew that. And it's got Nicolas Cage as Dracula, which the idea alone, I'm like, this could be a very interesting movie. The trailer dropped today, and it was the first time I realized this takes place in modern day. And it's leaning, I think, a lot more into the comedy. I mean, I expect to be some humor to it. This, I think, is leaning far more into the comedy than what I was expecting. That's not a knock against the movie. It's just not the movie I expected. So while it is dropped down a little bit on my anticipated list, I am still looking forward to it. It's still in my 20s here on the anticipation. There's Awkwafina, who's very hit and miss, as we know around here. Ben Schwartz, though, is also, and I guess I should have known this is a comedy. Look at this cast.
I was like, how did you not know?
I think at the time I put it on my list, all I knew about was Nicolas Cage and Nicholas Hoult.
Yeah.
So yeah. So I'm intrigued to see this one. Maybe just not what I was expecting.
This actually is my 19. Now, it was like in the 30s, but it shot all the way up to 19 after today's trailer. I was worried because before I looked at the cast today, I just knew Holt and Cage. And I was honestly worried this was going to be more towards like a Mandy route, where it was just going to be like this really artsy, direct, Dracula kind of thing, which could be good, but just really But then I saw the trailer today, and I honestly thought this looked like a blast. Nicholas Hoult, he's a very good comedy act when he's dueling with other people. Not a lot of people give Holt the credit he deserves, but like I remember him from like Warm Bodies and stuff like that. He has the ability to be really, really funny. Nicolas Cage, this is the first time he's been a vampire since it was a Vampire's Kiss. And I think he's going to chew the scenery up in this. And I think in a good way, not a bad way. Awkwafina, yeah, she's hit or miss, but lately she's been more of a hit than a miss for us. Also, I don't know the actor's name off the top of the head, but in the trailer, the guy who's running the support group, he's on the show that I actually really love. It's in its second season right now called Ghosts. And he plays like this dead British guy. And he's hilarious on that show. And so when I saw it was him, I actually got excited when I saw him in the movies. I'm like, yeah, this guy's actually getting movie roles. I'm excited for this. What I wasn't expecting was the brutality of like the gore and like the fight sequences for Renfield of this. And so this trailer was not at all what I was expecting. And I went from like cast-wise, this could be good, or it could be a Mandy-esque situation to a, holy crap, this movie looks fun. And that's why it shot up to my number 19. So I'm actually really excited for this. The design of Nick Cage's Dracula, if there was a knock, it would probably be his design of his Dracula, like the teeth and stuff like that. But I can get on board with it based off of how he performs and stuff like that. But I wasn't a crazy fan of how he looked as Dracula in the trailer. But this definitely did shot up for me. My number 21 is the movie that I was talking to you about before we started, where I was like, oh, they updated a new poster today. And you're like, I don't know what this is because, I was like, it's because it's 100% not on your list because you have not liked either of this man's films so far. His first film to me was one of my favorite films of the year. His second one was fine, but it was a miss for me. And that is Ari Aster's Beau's Afraid. And Brian left the screen because he hates Ari Aster so much. And the reason why, hold on, because Hereditary to me is one of my favorite horror films of, was it 2018, 19? I think it's 18 because Midsommar came out. Midsommar was basically the introduction to Florence Pugh for everybody, but for me, the movie was not great. But Beau's Afraid, all we know about it is it's described as a zonky nightmare comedy. Which right there, nightmare comedy with Ari Aster's artistically approach and taste of it. But the lead is Joaquin Phoenix, which I love Joaquin. Brian's a little wishy-washy with Joaquin. But you also got Amy Ryan, Nathan Lane, Richard Kind, who I really enjoy. So based off of that, I really, really want to see this. And they updated a new poster of it today, and it looks like there's different ages of Joaquin Phoenix in this, like different ages through the years. So Joaquin's going to be playing different aspects of roles in this. And I really want to see with the mind of Joaquin Phoenix with the directional mind of Ari Aster. I don't know if this movie's going to be good. I don't. But you add Aster with Phoenix and a zonky nightmare comedy, I have to see this film. And that's why it's at 21 and not higher, because Midsommar was a great disappointment to me. But Hereditary gives him a lot of leash. Now, if this doesn't work, then that leash is going to tighten very, very much for me. And I know this is 100% not on Brian's list because he left the screen as soon as I brought it up. But yeah, that was my number 21.
What do you have the title as?
It's like Beau's Afraid.
Beau is Afraid. Okay, yeah.
Beau is Afraid. Yeah, Beau is Afraid.
Okay.
You're going to be going here for a little bit because my 20 was Coyote versus Acme, and my 19 was Renfield. So you're going to go through your next.
Okay, I'll be doing at least 3 in a row here.
Yeah.
My 21, Dungeons and Dragons: Honor Among Thieves. Dungeons and Dragons should be something that you see and be like, yeah, this is going to be one of the worst films of the year, because whenever they've tried to make one, they've been complete trash. But this one seems to be a little different. This is one of those that seems to have found the right tone, because it seems to be, going for kind of a fun thing. It's written and directed by John Francis Daley and Jonathan Goldstein, who they directed Game Night. They wrote Spider-Man: Homecoming and the Horrible Bosses movies. So clearly it was going to be leading into the comedy. You see the trailer, which this cast is Chris Pine, Michelle Rodriguez, Reggie John Page from what's that show called? Bridgerton.
Fuck. We're men. We don't watch this show.
Yeah, Bridgerton. Justin Smith, Sophia Lillis from the It movies, Hugh Grant. And it looks like it's just kind of found just that perfect kind of. It's got the fantasy elements and the action to it, but it definitely has that comedy light angle to it, which, from what I've talked to a lot of people who play Dungeons and Dragons, that's more what the adventures are like. They aren't all serious. They're all people having fun playing this game. And that's what this seems like, especially because of Chris Pine. Chris Pine just seems to know how to find just the right tone when he's going for these movies, when he puts some comedy in with the action. And I'm really looking forward to this movie. And the trailer, I've seen, I think, 2 different trailers now, and I'm just more and more excited every time I see it.
All I can remember from his trailers is him dancing with the
lute.
The lutes at the end of it. This was on my list until you made me condense it, and then if it dropped off. I mean, for everything that you said, yes. I definitely am excited to see this movie. But when you had me cut the list down, I wanted to bring more of the movies people don't know about into the forefront. And since this one already had a trailer, I think a lot of people know this. I'm surprised you brought up Bridgerton and not The Gray Man for Reggie because he was in The Gray Man.
Barely.
Yeah, I mean he wasn't good in The Gray Man, but yeah, so not on my list, but it was 3 days ago. It was, but it's not anymore.
My number 20 is another sequel, and this one would have been higher if the last one wasn't. And that is Scream 6. Scream 6. Oh, it's the last Scream. Scream 5, whatever you want to call it. Scream
Yeah.
2022, whatever title you given to it. Um, was not a bad movie. There is definitely things to like about it. There are a lot of things I did like about it. There are a lot of things I didn't like about it, mostly in the story choices they made. I didn't think there was bad performances. I didn't think this movie was
There was one
made
bad
badly.
performance.
Yeah, well, yeah. Um, for the most part. Um, so I was my expectations for a next stream were very low. And then the teaser hits, and I hadn't heard anything about this. I don't know if anybody else knew this ahead of time. But the teaser hits, I'm like, oh, it's Ghostface Takes Manhattan. And I think that that's exactly what this movie needed. This franchise needed was to take it into a whole different setting, kind of a whole different atmosphere, a whole different tone to it. Maybe get away from doing kind of the same thing over and over again, which they've kind of been doing. Um, because the actors that are remaining and the ones they've added, I do think that I'm going to like most of them. Um, and so I have high hopes for this one. And this is one of those ones where the teaser actually bumped it up my list. It would have been lower.
You are just knocking my list down one after another because that was my number 18. It was kind of everything that you said. I was not one of the cheerleaders for last year's Scream. I was, watched the most disappointing list that we popped a couple days ago. It was definitely on there. But the survivors of the first film, I enjoyed all of them. So having them all back's great. Plus the addition of, I don't want to call him Pug, but the actor who played Pug in She-Hulk. I saw him, brief glimpse of him in the teaser next to the main cast. So if anything, he's the Jack Quaid of this movie. But I do like the new aesthetic approach of them being in New York. It gets them out of Woodsboro. Just the teaser alone of what we got intrigued me quite a bit. I just hope, and I'm hoping that it will because it's in New York. I hope that the writers try to go more clever and unique than less rehash old, Scream stereotypes. So I'm optimistic for this. I know they said Sydney is not returning, but Gail is. Because Gail is in New York, because she does Good Morning America. So, or is that in Los Angeles? I can't remember where Good Morning America is.
I kind of feel like
Honestly,
she will be in there in a limited capacity. I think that
I'm
the
hoping-
last movie was their way of transitioning to this new cast.
I'm hoping it's a Scream 3 approach with Cotton, where she's killed off in the beginning. And so that way it officially is handing everything over to the new cast because we know Sydney's not going to be in it. Either that or it's a smokescreen and Sydney is in it and they kill Sydney in the beginning. I think either way works.
I love if that happens. I don't see it happening.
Because let's face it, you and I, our better ending for Scream last year had Gail and Sydney both dying in it. So the sooner they kill them off, the better for us. But that was my number 18. So Brian, keep going with your list.
All right, my number 19. Maybe you have it higher than me at this point because I don't know if it's on your list or not. This one got a trailer and it was exactly what I expected it to be, and that is Cocaine Bear.
It is higher on the list.
Yeah, Cocaine Bear. It would be high on my list, except like if I talked about my most anticipated movies of like the early part of the year, it's definitely up there. But this
was on Brian's list last year, and I immediately called bullshit that this was an actual film.
This is an actual movie. Yeah, I mean it's a bear who gets into some cocaine that got dropped out of a plane by a drug runner, and these people are trying to, some people are trying to recover the cocaine. Other people are trying to take care of this bear who is apparently on the rampage, and it looks like it's got lots of nice, grisly, gruesome deaths. Very comedic, of course. It just looks like the kind of movie that knows what it is, and it's just going to be fun. You got Kerry Russell in the lead, O'Shea Jackson Jr., Jesse Tyler Ferguson, Alden Ehrenreich again is in this. Ray Liotta in his final role in Cocaine Bear. And it's directed by Elizabeth Banks. So, yeah, this is one of those where I heard about it. It made my anticipated list based on the concept. Saw the trailer, was exactly what I expected it to be. So it's still up there.
Yeah, this was a movie, like I said, I called bullshit on Brian last year when I was like, this is not a fucking movie. And this is based on a true story. The trailer finally came out. I remember, oh my God, I remember last year when this movie got pushed back. It was the equivalent of telling Brian that there was no Santa Claus. He was
What?
he was so damn sad. I've never seen Brian so physically sad to hear that a movie got pushed back. So I'm surprised that it's where it's at for you. I figured it'd be a top 10 film for you. But the trailer came out, and yeah, the cast that you mentioned, Elizabeth Banks directing it. I am all for this. This trailer looks batshit crazy, and it's either going to be in the best way or stinker way. I'm hoping it's more the best way. And then I don't know the actor's name, but I got immediately excited because the very, very first person we see in the trailer is this guy who does these videos on like TikTok or whatever, and of like basically being like a retail employee, and he's hilarious. And every time he does those videos, because they're 100% accurate to a retail employee, which is what I am, he plays the ambulance guy. And I immediately was like, oh, he's in it. He's probably gonna die like right away, but at least he's in a movie. Good for you. But yeah, this is my number 11, so it was just outside of my top 10. Yeah, this looks like it's going to be so much fun. If it is even remotely close to something like Violent Night, where I'm just laughing and enjoying myself in the theater, then it is going to be a win.
This
Are you
is
trying to
coming out soon too. I think isn't it February? I think
I think it might be who it is.
February 24th. This one's not too far off in the future.
Yeah, if you
number.
guys don't know this movie, like check out the trailer for this movie, because this movie is it's
Make sure you check out the Red Band trailer for this movie.
Yes, definitely the Red Band trailer for it. I'm literally trying to see if I can find this dude real quick. No, I'm sure I clicked on his name, but he doesn't have a picture. But yeah, if you guys can find this guy, he's hilarious. But go ahead with your next movie.
Okay, my number 18 we already talked about is Ghosted.
Okay.
17, another movie that I think is coming out. It was supposed to come out last year. The movie's been done for a while. I don't know. Another movie that I'm pretty sure Sean didn't believe was coming out. That is a reboot of The Toxic Avenger.
I still don't have this on my list because I still don't think this is coming out.
So it's directed by Macon Blair, who is mostly known as an actor who's in a lot of movies from Jeremy Saulnier, who did like Green Room and things like that, Blue Ruin. But it stars Peter Dinklage is taking over the role as the Toxic Avenger. Yeah, it also has Jacob Tremblay in it, Kevin Bacon, Elijah Wood, who I believe produces as well because he likes to produce these wacky horror movies these days. Jane Levy's in it. Yeah, there's no trailer. There's nothing yet, but just the idea of Elijah Wood and his company rebooting Toxic Avenger and then putting Peter Dinklage in that role. I cannot wait to see this movie.
I still don't think this movie's a real thing.
It is. It's in the can. I just don't know when it's getting released.
If it is, I'm 100% on board, but I don't think this movie's going to be released. And that actor is Scott Sess, Seiss. Look him up. Dude is hilarious. But yeah, Toxic Avenger, if this movie comes out, then yeah, that's going to be great. But I just don't think it's a real movie. I still have
my number 16, just we already covered it. My number 16 is We Have a Ghost. So,
okay. I still have not seen a single set photo from Toxic Avenger. Show me some damn set photos, and then I will believe that this movie is a thing. This is 2 years now you brought this movie up, and not a single set photo shot, which is why I call bullshit. But I call bullshit on Cocaine Bear, and here we are. So here's hoping. Here's hoping. I want it to be true, but I don't believe you. My number 17 is a movie that, on paper, this could be the funniest movie of the year, and I hope it is. This movie is called Quasi, and it's from the Broken Lizard Gang, the guys from Super Troopers, Club Dread, Slammin' Salmon, Beer Fest, Tacoma FD. If you guys don't know who we're talking about, you know who exactly these people are. Kevin Heffernan is directing it this time. Basically, a hapless hunchback who only yearns for love finds himself in the middle of a murderous feud between the Pope and the King of France when each orders the hunchback to kill the other. It's got obviously the Broken Lizard cast. You also got Adriana Palicki. That's, I think, the only real name outside of the Broken Lizard cast that I see, because you always have to have a very attractive woman with this cast.
He fits the bill.
I'm pretty sure is it Heffernan who's Quasi in this? It has to be him. If it's not him, then it's got to be Steve Lemmy.
No, I'm almost certain it is him.
It does right now. It doesn't say
his first build too. So yeah.
Yeah, it's got to be Farva. Farva's got to be the Quasimodo. But I mean, guys, if you love Broken Lizard and this is not on your anticipated, then you're not a Broken Lizard fan. Like I said, this movie is gonna be either a disappointment or the funniest damn film of the year, and I'm so excited for it.
This is my number 11. This is one we'd actually, I think, just started working on. We started talking about this list. We're talking about, we should start working on our most anticipated things like this. We're like, we're waiting for trailers on this and this and this.
Yeah.
And then one day, having heard nothing, a story about this movie happening popped up on like Deadline or something. I immediately just sent it on to Sean, and he's like, "Holy shit, it's on my list too." Click. It's just like, that's all you need to say. Broken Lizard doing Hunchback. Sold. Number 11.
9 times out of 10, all you gotta say is just Broken Lizard, and I'm there. So yeah, I'm anything Broken Lizard, I'm 100% there for. You said you did your 16 already?
I've already got through 16. Yeah.
Okay, then I'll do my 16 and 15 because I don't think either one's on your list. 16. Brian does not think this is going to come out this year, and I'm inclined to agree with him because this director already has a movie coming out this year. Not to say that you can't have a director with 2 movies out in the same year, but very rarely does it happen. But I'm putting it on here just because this is one of my favorite directors working today, and that is The Force with James Mangold. I love James Mangold. I think he's one of the best directors working today. The synopsis for The Force is a corrupt cop in the NYPD who's beginning to get squeezed by the feds has to decide whether or not to betray his friends, family, and job while racial tensions increase to a fever pitch in the city. The only cast that has been attached to this so far is Matt Damon, which is why Brian does not think it's going to come out this year, because there would be more people in the cast besides Matt Damon. But you have Mangold, and you have that synopsis with Matt Damon. It's already super high up on my list. But Mangold has another movie that comes out this year that we are both going to be talking about later. So there might be a chance this comes out maybe at the end of the year. I'm not 100% sure. Like I said, Damon's the only one in the cast right now, or at least that they're announced. So this might not come out, but it's a Mangold movie, so it has to go on my list. This
one, if I knew it was coming out, I would put it on there. But and it's not even the 2 movies by the same director thing. It's just there's no other information on this movie, so I have a hard time believing it's still scheduled for this year. So we'll see. Yeah,
we'll see. My number 15 is a movie that I know is not on Brian's list because he was not a fan of the first one, and that is Dune Part 2. Cast-wise alone, I thought the cast in Dune, while slow-moving and plotting the film was, I thought it was beautifully shot. I thought the acting was well done. I heard Part 2 is supposed to be more exciting. I hope it is. They added some new people. Austin Butler, obviously coming super hot off of Elvis, has joined the cast. Most of the original cast, at least that made it to past the first film, are going to be in it. Christopher Walken is joined the cast. Was Javier Bardem in the first one? I don't remember Javier being in it.
I don't think so.
No, he was at the end. He was with Zendaya at the end of the movie. That's right. So yeah, Walken and Butler joined. I want to say there's a third person that joined as well. But it's Denis Villeneuve. I mean, Denis is a really, really good director. I mean, I'm not going to call him overrated because I don't think that. But I think a lot of people he's kind of entering that Nolan zone where you can't badmouth him if his movies are just average. Like, I think Arrival is overrated as fuck, but Prisoners is underrated as fuck. But I just need to see how this thing ends. Chalamet's hit or miss.
The added was Austin Butler.
What's that?
Austin Butler was the other one they added.
I said Austin Butler.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Butler and Walken were the 2.
Okay.
There's a third one that I think got added, but I think it might be what's her name?
Leah Seydoux?
Yeah, I think she might be the third because I don't think she was in the first one. But yeah, I just need to see how this movie ends. So it's number 15 on my list. I know it's not on Brian's list.
No, I mean, even the first Dune I was not anticipating it. I saw it and I enjoyed it. I'm not a huge Dune fan. The Villeneuve is one of those where the fanboys who overpraise him makes me almost not want to see his movies, like kind of like the Nolan fanboys do. And that's not fair to him, of course. But it's just I think the movie's fine. I enjoyed it. I'll see this one. I'm sure I'll enjoy this one too. It's just not something I'm anticipating.
And of course, Ferguson.
Yeah.
We love Ferguson.
Speaking of anticipating, my 15 is a movie that's supposed to have been coming out for a couple of years now. And some people say maybe it shouldn't be released. And that is The Flash. So you got Ezra Miller. They have their problems, clearly, which have been surprisingly quiet for a while now. I think either they're getting the help they need or Warner Brothers just keeping a better lid on everything.
Keeping a better lid on it.
They have him locked in his house with armed guards around their house. So who knows what's going to happen there. Andy Muschietti directing this, though. And the big appeal of this is, of course, having Michael Keaton back as Batman. There are rumors that Henry Cavill pops in at least a scene as Superman. I don't know if that's ever been confirmed or not. Ben Affleck's in there as well. I kind of just want to see what this movie's going to do with the whole, it clearly has a lot of things to do with whether we kind of time travel or alternate dimensions or whatever they're doing with it. A lot of people think it's the Flashpoint story that's known from DC.
It's supposed to be.
It's supposed to be. But I don't know how much they've changed because when things get adapted to the screen, it sometimes just kind of bare bones, like especially the X-Men movies have shown that. Sometimes it's just not a lot of it's the same as the original stories. And again, this could be a train wreck, but as Ezra Miller, their performance as Flash is one of the things I liked in like the Justice League movie. So the performance in the movie is not the problem. It's all the stuff outside the movie, which I actually try to ignore when I go see a movie. I'm like, whatever happened outside, whatever. I just want to see how the movie is. And that's why this is still pretty high on my anticipated list because I do want to see it. It's clearly going to go nowhere because, they seem to be rebooting the entire DC universe. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, this movie was in my top 12 because I agree. Ezra Miller was one of the highlights in Justice League. I loved their performance of the Flash. The first teaser trailer we got with Michael Keaton, as little as we got of him in it, but having him in it made me super, super excited. I made a rule while condensing this list down because I had to condense it down, was that because of the state of the DC, I removed all the DC movies from my anticipated. So this, Aquaman, Blue Beetle, Shazam, all of them got bounced off of my anticipated because at the end of the day, none of these really matter anymore because we don't know where the DC is going to go. Aquaman, this is the last Aquaman movie. The last one was fine, but then you add the Amber Heard of it all. I mean, like I said, I, like you, try to remove everything from that. And when the movie does start to roll, I can then shut that stuff off. But I don't really have any expectations. Like Blue Beetle, I was excited for because it's got the kid from Cobra Kai in it. But who knows if that's even going to be more than just a one-off. Zachary Levi, I love Zachary Levi. I was excited for Shazam, but now because of potentially this might be his last movie, it's hard to be excited for these films knowing that there's no connective tissue continuing past these. So I removed all of them from my list, but I'm still excited to see this because of Keaton. I'm sure it's still going to be good, but at the end of the day, it's like watching Zack Snyder's Justice League where it has all these new storylines starting. And it's like, that's cool concept, but we're never going to see it past this point. So it's hard to really enjoy.
It was back in the days when they would just make one-shot superhero movies and everything didn't have to be interconnected. I'm fine with that. I actually thought for a while that's what DC was going to do.
That's the problem. I feel like Flash is going to have all that though.
But then they decided, no, we want to copy Marvel and do the whole interconnected massive universe. And I think that's a mistake. I think DC should have latched on to let's just do our movies and they don't have to connect. And then all these movies still would have felt like they care, even if we know that they're rebooting things. It's like, whatever, this is just its own story anyway. But because we know how everything's interconnected,
and Blue Beetle might be that way, and Shazam might be that way, but Aquaman and Flash won't be.
Yeah.
That was your 15 or 14?
That's 15.
Okay. My 14 is a movie that jumped up 10 spots for me after the trailer dropped yesterday, and that is Evil Dead Rise. Is it Rise or Rises?
It's Rise.
It's Rise. Okay, I had it right. I've always loved the Evil Dead franchise. I was more of an Army of Darkness fan than the first two Evil Deads. But I still enjoy those films. But Army of Darkness and then Ash versus the Evil Dead, I loved that. I loved the reboot that they did a few years back with Jane Levy. This one is kind of also kind of doing its own thing. Bruce Campbell is championing the hell out of this movie, putting it with to a family dynamic now instead of kids in a cabin in the woods kind of thing, and then also having it be in an apartment complex. Definitely adds a new wrinkle element to the storyline. This trailer was fucking insane in all the best possible ways. Now, whether it's going to still have that comedy aspect of it, it seems like it's going to be more like the new one that came out a few years back where it's more serious and funny because, let's face it, you don't have Bruce Campbell there to lighten things up. But from what I saw of it, I am excited to see this. Does it mean it's going to be good? No. But I am intrigued as hell to see what they do with this film. I know Brian, on the other hand, it fell off his list, I think.
Well, it was never actually on my list. It was on my list, like I said, my brainstorming list. So it's something I'm looking forward to seeing. But the trailer didn't launch it onto my list. I just kind of thought, I'll see it. We'll see.
Yeah.
My 14 is, I think, probably lower than most people would expect it to be. And that is Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. Now, Ant-Man has always been kind of a secondary MCU character for me. I mean, I enjoy him. I think it's a lot of fun. But his movies do seem like they're just kind of like, they're like a fun little light.
The Disney Plus movies of the MCU.
Yeah. But even the director has said he doesn't want this. He doesn't want to be the palate cleanser anymore. He wants his movie to be an Avengers level movie. The problem is most of the characters in this movie, I don't care that much about. I love Jonathan Majors, so I'm curious to see what he does with Kang, especially since it seems like he's going to be a major character moving forward in the MCU. So I do want to see that. The whole the quantum universe inside there with it's kind of like, it looks like alien worlds and all weird and cosmic. That's what honestly kind of turns me off. I'm not into kind of that whole aesthetic in my comic book and superhero and Marvel movies. So I'm not that interested in the movie. That's the reason it's lower than it should be. I'm still looking forward to the movie, but it's not like a top 10 movie for me. Now, there seems to be rumors that there's a lot more to this movie than we know that they're letting on. And if that's the case, if for example, stuck in this quantum verse, they find the Fantastic Four, and that's why they have not existed in the world before. That's one person's theory that I've heard going around, is that this movie is actually going to introduce them. That would be a major thing. Obviously, it would shoot way farther on my list. Yeah. There's any number of other things could happen because the director has said, like, he wants to be Avengers level movie, so maybe there's more going on to this that we don't know. So if another trailer comes out, which I guess there's a new one premiering like this week, I think, in a few days.
Monday during the college football championship.
Yeah, so maybe they'll let on more, maybe they won't. But it could obviously shoot farther up high on my list. But as it is right now, with the information I have right now, looking forward to it. Just not top 10 for me.
Yeah, this is my number 11. I'm kind of in the same boat as you. I love Paul Rudd as Ant-Man, but his movies are just kind of, they're there, but they don't really have any now I want to say emotional weight, but you literally can remove the Ant-Man movies from the MCU and the MCU is still the MCU. Now this movie does look like that's going to be different because with the Quantum Realm and Kang being in it, this looks like this movie's now becoming, like, I don't want to say a requirement, but is more of a stepping stone towards the new group, the new set of films. So this one's going to be very, very important. Also, you got Bill Murray, which I know a lot of people are getting sour on him, but he's still Bill Murray to me. Also, Catherine Newton, who I love. David Dashmal, say his last name.
Dashmalchian.
Oh, I was going to say it right. He's in this. So, those three new additions have me excited for it. Kang, I thought, was a highlight from Loki season 1. So bringing him into this, and it looks like they're going to push him up to, because not everyone saw Loki. So this is a lot more like his actual introduction to a good chunk of the audience who did not watch the TV shows. So this has potential to be great, but there's just 10 other movies ahead of it that I'm just more excited about. Now, like I said, there is one other MC movie that's just, it's not going to beat in terms of anticipation, but this could be the sneaker for best MCU film if it hits the landing on all these things that it's potentially promising. Now, I'm not trying to look into all the theories like you are with Fantastic Four or whatever, but depending on how they handle Kang and where they leave the movie when this movie ends, this could be a sleeper hit for one of the best comic book movies of the year. And then, of course, my number 13, since you basically have already hit my 11 and 12, is a movie that loved the cartoon. I had the toys. Franchise came out. I hated the fucking franchise so damn much. They did a spin-off movie that actually was really, really good, which gave me hope. And so now I've got hope again. Please don't shatter my hope. And that is Transformers Rise of the Beasts. Michael Bay, is he even producing this, or is he completely removed?
I think he's a producer on it, but
okay, as long as he's not directing. We got a brand new director. The Transformers actually look more closer to the first 10 minutes of Bumblebee, which is probably the best minutes of any Transformers movie ever live action. Optimus Prime looks more like Optimus Prime, which, like I said, that first 10 minutes of Bumblebee is the best 10 minutes of Transformers, bar none. Plus, the biggest addition, the reason why this was also Anthony Ramos, again, another big movie this year. But the big reason why this is why it's so anticipated for me, it's not because it's a Transformers movie, it's because one of my favorite renditions of Transformers is Beast Wars. I remember when I was a kid in elementary school, I'd wake up in the morning and Bobby's World was on, and then Beast Wars was on. Beast Wars was one of the very first like 3D animated shows. I loved those Beast War characters, and seeing them now being brought to the big screen. I think Ron Perlman is playing the. I hate that I can't remember the ape robot right now, but I love that character. I think it was Optimus, like something Prime, but
Optimus Primal is what it's listed as.
Optimus Primal. I'm excited for this because of the Baylessness of it, and plus you have Ramos, and because the Beast Wars characters are in the forefront, I'm excited for this, and I hope it doesn't disappoint me. It might shatter me if this movie sucks just like the other ones, but I'm hopeful that it does not suck. So that's my 13, 12, and 11, because like I said, 12 was Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania, and my 11 was Cocaine Bear. So I'm at my top 10 now.
Right. Well, so, Transformers for me was up at number 9.
Wow, knowing how much you hate those movies, that's actually...
I like the first 3 Transformers movies. Actually, a lot of people don't like 2 and 3. I enjoy them.
The first one's fine. 2 is hot garbage. 3 was an improvement. And then the
4 and 5 for me were just messes, especially 5.
Oh my god,
it was awful. Bumblebee was a great movie, a step in the right direction. Yes. I'm disappointed Travis Knight did not come back to make another one. They got the director of Creed 2 instead, which is an interesting choice. But at least we know he's a competent director. It is still produced by Spielberg and Michael Bay. And the trailer, like you said, I like that the look they went with was more closer to the Bumblebee aspect of it, where it's not so messy you can't even tell who's who kind of thing. This is more like the Bumblebee where you can, it's almost back to the original cartoon. Yeah. I was never into the Beast Wars. I was kind of out of Transformers cartoons and toys and stuff by the time Beast Wars hit. It was like generation behind me. So I don't know anything about that at all, honestly. But I'm still just intrigued just because it's another Transformers movie, not directed by Michael Bay, which is a big plus. My 13 is Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning Part 1. Christopher McQuarrie once again directing Tom Cruise in a Mission Impossible movie. I enjoy all the Mission Impossible movies, but I also think that they all kind of feel like the same movie over and over again. So, I mean, I go to see it for the action, for the stunts, for the spectacle, for the chase scenes, things like that. But the stories, I'm kind of like, I don't really care about the plot of the movies. So, I mean, for what it is, I'm very excited about it. It's just not going to break my top 10.
That is my number 4. Fallout was, I feel like since Mission Impossible 3, which I think a lot of people really try to dismiss it now because they've actually gotten stronger. But I think 3 is one of the better ones with J.J. Abrams directing it. I feel like they've keep upping the level. And I'm not talking about Tom Cruise's stunts. I'm talking about just the cast and performances. I think Fallout was great. I think the ones before that were great. This is definitely a franchise that I feel like is getting stronger and stronger and stronger per new film, unlike Fast and the Furious. Whereas like with the way you feel towards this is the way I feel towards Fast and Furious. I'm there for the stunts and stuff like that. I can give a rat's ass about the story. But Mission Impossible, I do care about. And I am excited to see what this one's going to have in store for us. I and then of course, what stupid thing is Tom Cruise going to do next? Is going to get himself almost killed.
Right.
But yeah, this is my number 4.
Yeah, and of
So
course, this they add in Haley Atwell. They add in Palm Clementif, who we know from as Mantis. Carrie Elway's in this as well. But I mean, obviously, the stunts kind of big thing. I still am mad at them though because I thought Henry Cavill was the best character, and then they went and turned him bad and killed him off. Like, oh, I would love to see him like.
What's funny now is that like everyone's like, oh, Henry Cavill's Superman. It's like Henry Cavill's not going to be known for Superman. Henry Cavill's going to be known for his thing. That thing was like, dude, you don't realize that you just made yourself an icon by doing just this one arm motion. You've now become Hollywood iconic. So good for you, Cavill. That and your mustache.
Yeah, and then my 12 was Fast X. My 11 is Quasi. So that brings us into the top 10.
All right, and so we're going to be going down into our top 10 most anticipated films of 2023. All right, so now we're going to go into my number 10 most anticipated film of the year. This is a movie that, if honestly, because this list has all over the place, in the last like week or two. If you were to ask me if Sean, is this movie going to be in your top 10, I would have said not a chance. Not a chance in hell would this be in my top 10. But they dropped the second trailer for it earlier. I think it was this week or last week, and I was like, you know what? I am just so damn intrigued. But I've been burned by this guy so many times that I don't know why I'm giving him the chance. And I think I'm giving him the chance more for the cast than anything else. But it's going to be M. Night Shyamalan's Knock at the Cabin. I've spoke many times on this channel about my opinion of M. Night Shyamalan, how I feel like he's the ultimate con man when it comes to movies because his trailers are so great. And here we are again watching trailers, and he locked me in. And then the movies end up being, like I said, trash as soon as they hit the halfway mark. But Knock at the Cabin, you got Batista, you got I almost called him Ron. Rupert Grint. You got Jonathan Goff, and just the synopsis of this film is just incredibly intriguing. You got this couple and their child out in the woods in a cabin, and these 4 strangers come up and break into their house, and they basically say, look, one of you has to decide to sacrifice yourselves or the world's going to end. And every time you say no, hundreds of thousands of people are going to die. And just that premise with Batista and that kind of cast has just left me super intrigued about this movie. And like I said, it could be utterly ridiculously dumb because M. Night will do something that's just stupid, like The Wind in The Happening, or a guy talking about hot dogs for a full solid minute, or Mark Wahlberg's horribly bad acting. I know I keep bringing up The Happening, but that's just so fucking bad. But damn it, if M. Night is not, like I said, the perfect con man, because his trailers are so damn convincing. I'm sure this is not even in your list because you're like me, you don't trust M. Night Shyamalan. But the second trailer, the first trailer intrigued me, the second trailer solidified it, which is why it's in my top 10. But like literally, if you would ask me like 10 days ago, this is probably like in the 20s, but that second trailer bumped it up. What about you?
Yeah, I've never been a big fan of Shyamalan. I think that like even early on, like Sixth Sense and Unbreakable, I think are good movies that get overpraised. But then everything since then, I mean, when you go into like The Village and Lady in the Water and The Last Airbender and After Earth and all these things, it's like he's just made a lot of bad movies. But then he kind of made like this sort of comeback. I mean, like that. I thought that Old was actually decent. I liked Split and Glass. I liked both of those. And so I do have some hope that this will be a good movie. And like you said, his trailers are always great. And like you said, the second trailer for this, where it adds a little bit more, it expands on it a little bit more and talks and shows how like one of the guys in the couple is like actually starting to go along with it, and it's very intriguing. So I'm anticipating it now more than I was. And honestly, if I had made this list after I had seen the second trailer, it might have made like towards the bottom, but it might have made the list. But no, it didn't make my top.
What's funny about M. Night is my favorite M. Night movie is one of the ones that people don't care for, and that's Signs. I love Signs. I think
Signs is like dead middle for me. It's like
Signs is great, and I think Sixth Sense is solid but overrated. Unbreakable's good. Split is great. Split's probably like my second favorite, and then everything else just kind of trickles down from there. But I hope I want to be wrong. I want to. I want a good M Night movie again. Which I say that, but the Split was really good. But to me, Glass was a huge disappointment. That was like one of my disappointing films of the year. To have that build up and just have it be a snooze fest, and then just the way it ended just pissed me off. But I would love for this to be great, even though I do feel like that second trailer kind of gave away the fate of one of the characters. If not, then that one character just really gets their ass kicked a lot in the movie. But it really looked like it kind of gave away the fate of one of them. But I hope this movie is even halfway good, and at one point I don't go, "Fuck you, M Night." That's my goal, is to not cross my arms at one point going, "Fuck you, M Night." If I can go through that whole movie without that, it's a success for me. But that's my number 10. What is your number 10 for the year?
my number 10 is a film that I believe is going to be a Netflix movie. It was originally supposed to come out last year. Now it's coming out sometime this year. I don't know when. And that is David Fincher's The Killer. This is David Fincher hasn't made a movie in quite a while. I can't even remember what his last one was, honestly. But he's coming back. This is basically a story. It's based on a graphic novel, I believe. What's that?
Was it one of the Dragon Tattoo movies?
I don't know.
I'll look it up.
Oh, he did Mank for Netflix a few years ago.
Oh man, yeah,
2019. Yeah. But this is it sounds like he's gonna get back to something a little bit more fun. It's not just a drama. I mean, this is based on a graphic novel. It stars Michael Fassbender in the lead role of this assassin, basically. And not a whole lot else is known of the story of the movie. Now, anybody who's read the graphic novel might know more about it. I have not, so I don't know much about it. But it just Michael Fassbender as an assassin in a David Fincher film, and I'm sold. So it's made my top 10.
Yeah, besides Mank, the last one was Gone Girl.
Oh, that's going pretty far back, yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, he did Mindhunters on Netflix, which is great. That show's awesome. Really wish he'd get a third season.
I don't recognize any other names in this movie except for Tilda Swinton's in it, and Charles Parnell, who I recognize the face, but you won't know the name.
Yeah, I saw this and I was like, I have to see a trailer to get excited for it, because
a trailer could either shoot it higher or could drop way down the list.
Tilda Swinton, I'm take her or leave her. I think she's a very unique actress, but she doesn't sell movies for me. So it literally.
If she was the lead of a movie, I wouldn't. Yeah. Yeah,
it rides or dies on the trailer, so it didn't make my anticipated. My number 9 is a movie that also, like I said, try to be a little different with my anticipated this year. This is just going off of the lead, the director, and the plot. No, nothing. Have not seen a trailer, but just off of those 3 things, I'm like, this movie has to kick ass, and that is Argylle. Argylle is directed by Matthew Vaughn, who I love as a director. I mean, the Kingsman films, kick ass. X-Men First Class, which I know you don't like, but I love. Stardust, another movie that I love that you don't really care for. Starring Henry Cavill. The synopsis is: a world-class spy suffering from amnesia is tricked into believing he is a best-selling spy novelist. After his memories and lethal skills return, he goes down on a path of revenge against the shadowy organization he used to work for, The Division. Also got Bryce Dallas Howard, Sam Rockwell, hello, Samuel Jackson, Bryan Cranston, Catherine O'Hara, Ariana DeBose, I mean, John Cena. This cast with Matthew Vaughn's direction, dude, I am so excited, and I have not seen a damn trailer for this, but seeing Cavill almost, what's funny is it's almost like, I mean, yeah, he's Superman, but this is almost like Jason Bourne, but he's Clark Kent, and then he becomes Jason Bourne because he doesn't remember his skills, and he's an author, so he's probably going to be a little nerdy, not super great, and then he just kind of becomes this epic badass, and then you have Cranston, Rockwell, Jackson, and Cena all in it. Dude, this movie's going to be awesome. I'm so excited for this. I can't wait for a trailer. But it's also one of those things too with Matthew Vaughn, is that even when we get a trailer, I hope that the trailer doesn't give too much away. Did this crack your list at all?
This is my number 5 on my
Okay.
list of my most anticipated for the year. And like you said, it's based on nothing. We have no trailer. We don't have stills. We got nothing. We have a director who did Kick-Ass and Kingsman, and we have Henry Cavill, and we just have a really cool plot synopsis. I mean, that's all I needed because I mean that whole supporting cast, especially Henry Cavill, I like, but with the rest of those names, Bryce Dallas Howard, Sam Rockwell, Samuel L. Jackson, all these people,
Right.
it's just a great cast put together in this ensemble into a genre that I love from a director who's made some great like kind of action, and they all have an element of comedy to them as well, of course. The plot synopsis actually sounds a lot like The Long Kiss Goodnight, where Gina Davis basically had been this assassin. She got amnesia, and then she starts to realize who she was and her skills return, things like that. And you got Samuel L. Jackson from them, and we back in this one. So
Yeah,
it should be interesting.
You could honestly take Henry Cavill out of this, and this is still in my top 10. Just based off of that cast alone. But then you have Cavill, like I said, he's good in things, but he's not great, except for The Witcher. He's pretty freaking great. But you put Cavill with Vaughn, and with Vaughn's action, Cavill's gonna kill this. Cavill's gonna have so much fun because I'm hoping that it's more of a fun thing. Because when Cavill, much like a lot of our action heroes that we like, when they have fun, they're 10 times better. When they're just playing, I'm serious and stuff like that, it's just like then you have to write everything off the story and the action. But when they're having fun with the script, which Cavill should because it's Matthew Vaughn, it's going to only elevate it further from there. And then I hope Cranston, if Cranston plays this, like I said, we have no idea who Cranston's playing. He could be a good guy or a bad guy, but if he plays this almost like a mustache twirling Walter White, that's going to be amazing. And because Cranston is so good at just everything that I kind of just want him to have one of those villain roles where you just choose the scenery, which I know a lot of people are like, oh, that's just them overacting. But it's like, is it just them having a blast?
If you put it in a movie that does not use that kind of villain, it doesn't fit, then it seems out of place. You put a mustache twirling villain in a Matthew Vaughn movie, that's perfect for it.
I'm honestly hoping that that's Cranston's role because I so badly want to see that. But that's my 9. Did we talk about your 9 yet? Because I thought
we talked about my 9 was Transformers: Rise of the Beast, which we already talked about.
Yeah. Okay. And I know my number 8 is going to be a lot higher for you. So go with your 8, because that way because when I bring up my 8, it's probably going to be in your top 5.
My number 8, honestly, is one that if you asked me a while ago, I might not even made my top 20. For some reason, I'm just getting more excited about it. Part of that's probably because we got a trailer for it and such. And that's Creed 3. I enjoy the Rocky movies to different extents. I mean, some of them aren't good, but they're all at least a little fun. The 2 Creed movies, though, I think are better than most of the Rocky movies. I think they're just very well made. I think that Michael B. Jordan does a great job. I think they're well directed. I think they're exciting and dramatic. But none of them are like my favorite films of the particular year. It's probably not even top 10. Creed 3, though, what they did to hook me, they added
Jonathan Majors.
Thank you, Jonathan Majors. Jonathan Majors is going to have a hell of a year. I mean, we both love him from Heart of the Fall, and then he's coming off of he was just
also was in Defy Bloods. He was also in Defy Bloods.
Yeah, Defy Bloods. He's just coming off of Devotion last year. He's going to have Ant-Man and the Wasp coming out in about a month from now, and this movie coming out, and he looks just jacked as hell. I love the character he's playing. He clearly has a history with Michael B. Jordan, which he's like not sure if he wants to associate with him anymore, but he's kind of playing it to get his title shot, and I just Jonathan Majors alone was enough to knock this up several spots on my list.
What's funny is I said go with your number 8 because I know my number 8 is going to be probably in your top 5, and then you took my number 3 film of the year, which is Creed 3. I agree with everything you said, including the Creed movies. I think Creed 1 and Creed 2 are some of the best Rocky films. Not the best, but some of the best. Probably Creed 1 and Creed 2 are probably in the top 5 of Rocky films. I think Creed 1 was brilliant in what it did. I thought it was great. And I think Creed 2 did something that I don't think anyone thought that they could do, and that's actually make you feel sympathy for the Dragos. Because by the time the end of Creed 2, it was like, God, I don't want Creed to lose, but I also don't want Drago to lose because Like the way that this, like they're being treated, it's like I feel bad for the
Yeah.
Dragos, and that's like some Cobra Kai bullshit where you're like, oh, Johnny's never gonna be the good guy, and then you fall in love with Johnny, and then here we are, Creed 2, and I'm like, damn it, am I rooting for the Dragos in this? Plus this is Michael B. Jordan's directing, so we're gonna see how he does. But Jonathan, like you said, that trailer when Jonathan Majors showed up, you saw how shredded he got, because he's always been a fit guy.
Yeah.
He's never been like, holy shit, like,
Yeah.
dude.
I look at him and like, how is he in the same weight class as Michael B. Jordan?
No, well, because they're in heavyweight, it doesn't matter the weight class at that point. But it's one of those things, because Michael B. Jordan maybe could, like, he's heavyweight, but he's not. He's more like a middleweight. But that trailer, I don't need anything else. You sold me on the one trailer. I don't want another trailer. I don't need to see any more from this. You've locked me in. I cannot wait to see it. This is why it's my number 3. I love these Creed movies. I like pretty much every Rocky movie except for obviously the one that everyone hates, which is Rocky
I do like that. It seems like Rocky, as I believe, is not in this movie at all.
Well, they said that at the end of Creed 2.
They pretty much said that, but I'm saying you never know, it's going to launch some surprise in there, but I doubt it. But
what I'm hoping, and if they don't do this, I'm cool either way. I'm hoping they don't kill off Rocky, because I don't want that extra storyline there.
I don't think they will, only because there was talk of a spinoff following Drago, and I can also see Rocky helping him train,
which I'm cool with. I just don't want that added story element of, I wish Rocky was here, but he's we don't need that.
Right, but I'm actually glad Rocky's not because I didn't like him in the 2 previous Creed movies. I think that you needed to have that transition. Yeah. You needed to have him in there kind of to show it. This is the same universe. It's not us trying to reboot things.
We need to
but he's played his part. He's the champion now, and move on from here without him.
Creed needs to grow as a character, and Rocky technically holds him back as a character because he still feels just like this mentoree of Rocky, and so he needs to rise up and become his own person, and that's what Creed 3 hopefully is going to do. I guess I'll go ahead and do my number 8 since you took one of my top 5 away from me, because I know that this is probably in your top 3, just like Creed 3 is. This movie, I don't love this franchise as much as Brian does. I know this is one of Brian's favorites, especially the first one. You already know where I'm going. The last movie, Brian says doesn't exist. I don't think it's as bad as everyone makes it out to be. It's not good, but it's definitely not as bad as everyone makes it out to be. And there's one reason. There's one reason why this movie is in my top 10. And it's not the lead. It's not even the film. It's the director. And having this director for this film gives me hope that this movie's going to end the franchise on a very high note. And that is Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. Now, my dad is a huge Indiana Jones fan. I watched the first 3 films all the time at home, especially Temple of Doom for some reason, because it was just always on TV. But Raiders, Last Crusade was the last film I saw at a drive-in. Like, you always remember your last drive-in movie, and Last Crusade was my last drive-in movie. Crystal Skull, Brian doesn't believe that movie exists, so I'm not going to keep punching that one in. But I saw the first trailer for Dial of Destiny, and it's got its excitement. I do think the de-aging didn't look as sharp, but it's a trailer. They're going to touch that shit up. So I fully expect by the time that movie comes out, it's going to look way better. But having James Mangold, which is another reason why maybe The Force probably won't be coming out, because Mangold's got Indiana Jones. Not that he can't have 2 movies come out in the same year, but having Mangold at the helm, because I love James Mangold, I feel more confident in Indiana Jones this time. Plus, you add Mads Mikkelsen to the cast, and there's someone else that got added to the cast that I really like.
Phoebe Waller-Bridge?
I do like Phoebe Waller-Bridge, but I like Phoebe Waller-Bridge from
Boyd Holbrook.
What?
Boyd Holbrook?
Yeah, I think it was Boyd Holbrook, because Phoebe Waller-Bridge, I love her in Fleabag, but I haven't really liked her in any movies yet. Boyd, I mean, we love Boyd from Logan, and he was solid in the Predator. Like, it wasn't his fault. Also, Antonio Banderas was added to it. So this movie has the potential to be great, or the movie has potential to be good, but with Mangold at the helm, it has the potential to be great. And I hope it is great because I feel like Harrison Ford really needs to go out on a rise. Not that he's not done, because he's doing 1890 whatever Yellowstone show, and it's not like he's done acting or anything. He's got an Apple show coming out this month, I think, with what's his name, Jason Segel. But Indiana Jones hasn't hit me like it used to back in the early 90s, but with Mangold, I feel like it could change. I know this is in your top 5.
Well, you know, we debated on what format to use going through our lists, because when we deal with two people's lists, they're never going to match up. So what order to go in? Because you just took my number 1.
I was like, okay, it's gonna. I was like, I know it's gonna be your 1 or 2.
Does that mean I think this is going to be the best movie of the year? Probably not. I mean, I'd love it if it was. I'd absolutely love it if it was. I don't think it will be. But this is the most anticipated movie, and I have to say this is the one I am anticipating the most, for good or bad. Because yes, the last movie was a giant disappointment. Even if you liked the movie, it was a giant disappointment. You're like, oh, waited this long for Indiana Jones movie, and this is what we got, and it wasn't great. And so this is like one last chance to go out on top, to go out with a good movie. George Lucas, who all of the problems people have with the last movie all came from George Lucas. Steven Spielberg even said he just like let George decide what he wanted to do. George dictated the story, he had all the stuff, and Spielberg's like, whatever, dude, I'm just running the camera basically. This one, George Lucas, he's a producer on it, technically in name only, whereas Spielberg is still on it. And yes, you have James Mangold, who we've seen what James Mangold can do, and the kind of different take he can take on a character. He comes in with something like Logan and just kind of takes this character who you know is one way. It's a completely different tone to it, but you just love what he did with that movie. It probably made the best Wolverine movie.
I love how George Lucas has become the ultimate scapegoat for Star Wars.
Well, in this case, he absolutely is.
Yeah, I know. I just love that he is that now.
Like the nuking the fridge is something he said he wanted in the movie. The swinging with the monkeys is something he said he wanted in the movie. He insisted on having Mutt be this. Anyway, I won't go off on that.
Apparently, they're going to explain Mutt in the movie. Like, he won't be in it, but they're going to explain where he is.
But I do like all the supporting cast. Phoebe Waller-Bridge, I like. Mads Mikkelsen, of course, is a great actor. Antonio Banderas, Boyd Holbrook. You get Sala back, although it's probably just, if I had to guess, just for a scene or two. John Rhys Davies is back in there. I thought the trailer looked, solid. It didn't blow me away, but it was like enough that like, oh, this doesn't look like it sucks. This looks like it could be fun. I want to see a final trailer, closer to its release. The de-aging, I think, is some of the better de-aging we've seen, but yes, I'm sure they'll touch it up even better by the time it comes out.
I think a lot of it was more like the quick shots. I was like, that doesn't look good. But
yeah. So, I mean, like I said, I don't expect this to be my number 1 movie of the year. I expect that I think just because of the people involved and because James Mangold came in, I think it is going to be a good movie. But just in terms of sheer anticipation of wanting to see this movie, whether it turns out to be great or whether it disappoints, I have to know. I have to know how Indiana Jones goes out. So it was my number
1. Didn't mean to take your number 1, but damn.
Well, there's no way around it the way we're doing it.
I know. There's no way. Go ahead with your number 7.
My number 7 we've talked about is Kraven.
Oh, Kraven the Hunter. All right. My number 7 is also going to probably be in your remaining few because we love this franchise. We have a blast watching this franchise. They're back for a 4th film, and that is John Wick Chapter 4. No fun title this time, just Chapter 4. Look, I think you can pretty much chalk this up almost like a Benoit Blanc, Daniel Craig situation. I don't think we're ever really going to get tired of Keanu as John Wick. They're just fun films, and Keanu enjoys the hell out of making them. And as long as he's having fun making these films, I don't think anyone's going to get tired of watching him be John Wick. You keep adding awesome casts like Donnie Yen and Bill Skarsgård. Again, he's going to have a pretty good year if those other films we talked about, end up being as good as they're supposed to be. I think the big thing that everyone tries to argue on the John Wicks or the people who are trying to make people think John Wick's not as good is they love to attack the story or they love to attack the elements of this assassin world. But it's like, look, it's just like the Avatar Fast and the Furious argument. You don't go into a John Wick movie for this amazing story of espionage and assassins. You go to watch Keanu Reeves shoot the fuck out of people for an hour and 45 minutes. I will say There is one part in the trailer that I hope they explain because it looks utterly ridiculous. Where him and Donnie Yen are like within 6 feet of each other, shooting at each other, and they're just doing this. And I'm like, you better explain how those bullets don't hit you.
Yeah, honestly, if there's one thing I don't like in the entire John Wick franchise, it's that whole thing of like making those bulletproof suits, like the suits made of bulletproof material. It's like I think that is just like it. That's almost getting into some sci-fi shit,
Yeah.
and it kind of takes away from. And I understand because you can't have all these people shooting, and he just happens to never get shot. So you have to be able to explain how he can live through this.
Well, I
whole
mean, he
event.
got his ass kicked in the last one, but I mean,
Yeah,
like,
it's gonna ask you constantly. Which there's if you say you keep making these forever, the problem is they are to some extent fighting time because these movies take place right after one another. Like by the time John Wick 4 is over, there's still only like a week has passed in John Wick's life from one.
yeah,
to four.
it would, yeah, 2 weeks tops, but
Yeah,
yeah,
something like that. Because everything picks up right where the other one left off. So it's like eventually John Wick's
Hollywood needs to
Keanu
make.
Reeves is gonna be like 60 years old. I'm like, wait, he's still. This is supposed to be a week after he was 45. Whatever.
I mean, all you gotta do is just dye his hair jet black, and Keanu's fine. But I mean, I'm one of the people that have actually think that I've liked each one better than the last. I thought John Wick was solid. It was a surprise. I don't think anyone expected it to be as good as it was. I think John Wick 2 was better than John Wick 1. I think I just liked the characters and the story a little bit better. And I think John Wick 3, outside of one character in that film, I thought was the best one. I loved Halle Berry in it. I loved the dogs. I loved oh crap. I'm blanking on was it Nero in the movie? The guy who like made the food but then had that epically last battle with him.
Mark Dacascos?
Yeah, Mark Dacascos. I think his name was Nero or Neo.
Zero.
Or yeah, I loved that character in this, and I'm hoping Donnie Yen's remotely kind of close to that. Where it's like I loved that like all these guys were fighting Wick, but they like respected the hell out of him to the point where like they wouldn't kill him cheaply because it's like no, you're John Wick, like get up, like if we're gonna do this right kind of thing, and then they still died. I love watching the John Wick films. I think when the first John Wick came out, everyone was like losing their minds over it, and I was kind of jaded towards it. But then like I jumped on that train, and I was just like, look, one thing I do is I love watching Keanu train for these. I love watching him do the behind the scenes stuff because
awesome.
I'm sorry, Keanu could F some people up if he wanted to. Like don't mess with Keanu Reeves, man. He'll mess you people up. Did this crack? This has to be in your anticipated.
Oh yeah, this is my number 3.
I was like, I don't feel bad if it was your number 2. I'm taking your whole top.
No,
we're playing Battleship, but I'm sinking his Battleship right now.
No, I mean, like you, I love all the John Wick movies. I think the first is still my favorite just because it is the first. But I've loved the way I love the way. Well, first of all, the first movie alone with the Continental Hotel and the whole, the coins and all that, just set up the idea of this whole world of assassins. It really just made a full world. It wasn't just like quick little stupid references. It really put you in this place. And then 2 just expanded on that and turned into a whole bigger universe. And I love the way that was done. And then 3, of course, goes on and ups the action, things like that. I've loved the action of all these movies.
TV show. God, they've been talking about the Continental TV show for I think it's since John Wick 1 came out.
Well, the Continental TV show is now I think 3 90-minute basically movies. It's coming out. I think I want to say it's Peacock now putting them out. I'm not sure when they're coming out. And then they're also going to add in the Ballerina, which not only is from Angelica Houston, of course, from the last movie. Is going to follow her and the people she's trained. Ana de Armas.
Wasn't it Ana de Armas?
That's all you need to say because they already wasted her in James Bond. So let's finally give her own full action movie, get to kick ass.
That's how you're gonna give John Wick the vacation he needs. Is you're gonna pass it over to Ana de Armas, and then John Wick can actually like go take a year off. And it's like then we'll watch like 4 movies of Ana de Armas, and then Wick will come back for John Wick 5, and everyone's gonna lose their mind.
Oh, I want to see Ana de Armas teaming up with John Wick. It'll be awesome.
I mean, at this point,
she'll come back to his door and knock with a friend of hers. That's a whole different movie. Sorry.
Oh, I mean it's called Don't Knock, but then you have Halle Berry. So it's like John Wick's a lucky dude, and he was married to
Halle Berry. I loved in the last one. Her and the dogs. It was I think some of the best things in that last movie, and I love seeing even the videos of her training too for these movies are awesome.
Oh yeah, and the dogs, like everything about that whole scene with the dogs and her fight. That was one of my favorite scenes of that year. And like
so anyway, for me, based on like you said, just based on all the last movies, this was already going to make my top 5. And then, of course, the trailer came out, and the trailer looks just as kick-ass as we hoped it would. Like you said, all the new additions. You got Donnie Yen coming in. Bill Skarsgård's in this one. Yeah, Hiroyuki Sanada's in it. You got all kinds of people in this one. So I'm really looking forward to this one.
That was your number 2. So what is your... Or sorry, those are 3. What is your number... 6. Are you on 6? Yeah, what's your 6?
My 6 is actually lower than I think you'd expect it to be, and that's Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. I love Guardians of the Galaxy. I'm one of those people when it first announced it, I'm like, really, a talking raccoon and a tree, and this is going to be Marvel's first flop. And of course, it wasn't. Not only was it super successful, but I loved it, and they've been some of my favorite characters in the Marvel Cinematic Universe ever since then. Volume 2 was not as good as 1. I think it had its issues, but I still actually very much enjoyed that movie. This one I was looking forward to just because it's another Guardians of the Galaxy volume, another Guardians of the Galaxy film, and James Gunn, they did end up coming back to direct it. Honestly, the only thing keeping it from going higher is just the things I'm hearing about it, and even the trailer that we've seen already. They're so pitching like, oh, it's going to be so emotional, and it's going to be this finale, and they're talking characters are going to die and everything, and these sad storylines. Like, that's not what I want from Guardians. I want Guardians to be fun, and I'm sure it will have fun in it. But it's just like I don't go to this kind of movie looking for all this deep emotion, which it might not be as much as they're kind of letting on. It might be better balanced than that. But the trailer certainly leans into that, and it's just like I'm still anticipating. I mean, it's still top 10. It's my number 6 anticipated movie of the year. I thought it would have been higher.
This is my number 1. Like you said, when I first heard about Guardians of the Galaxy with a talking raccoon, talking tree, I was like, wow, they're really going to the bottom of the barrel. But damn me, Guardians Volume 1 is still to this day one of my favorite MCU movies, hands down. I also really, really loved Guardians Volume 2. I agree, it's not as good as the first one, but I love the dynamic of Kurt Russell. Yondu, at the end with Yondu, that still gets me emotional every time I watch it. I love these characters. I do think Avengers Endgame and Infinity War has kind of, I don't want to say cheapened these characters, but they really feel out of their element when those in those films. We need to just have them be with them again. But yes, I agree. This movie does look super serious, super emotional with Rocket's storyline. We already know that this is probably going to be Batista's last go with Drax. I'm sure the whole Gamora storyline is obviously going to be pretty serious in this between Peter and Nebula. But we do have a lot of great new additions with the cast. We're getting, oh God, what's his name? Will Poulter. He's playing.
Will Poulter. Oh, I love Will Poulter. Yeah.
Yeah. Who got also, once again, just like managers, got
Adam Warlock
for this role. Yeah. Adam Warlock. Thank you. There's so many new additions to this, and like I said, that Guardians vibe. Yes, this movie's gonna look super, super serious, but it's still James Gunn, and James Gunn's gonna make sure this goes out on top. So you're gonna have that balance of humor with emotional weight. Suicide Squad did it just as good, but that was rated R, and Guardians won't be rated R. But I feel like this movie is hopefully gonna knock it out of the park. I think this is gonna be the best Marvel movie of the year. And if this is the last go around for these Guardians crew, then I can't wait to see what they do with it. If all else fails, Volume 2 opened the door for all these other Guardians to come in with the Ravagers and stuff with Stallone and all them. I'm cool with bringing in some more mixtures so that way we can keep this stuff going. But knowing that Gunn is going to DC, this might be the last one we get for these Guardians. And as long as they go out on a high note, I'm excited. And that's why it's my number 1 movie.
Yeah, I don't think we'll see any more Guardians films after this. I think
we'll see like characters pop up.
I think some of the characters could show up in like the Secret Wars movies and King Dynasty, things like that. I don't think we will see another Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 4 because yes, you have Sylvester Stallone's other characters, but I'm not sure if they'll try to basically reboot the group with them. I will say a couple other additions I forgot to mention. We've already seen in the holiday special Maria Bakalova as the voice of Cosmo the dog. Yeah, she's always a good addition. Daniela Melchior, who is Ratcatcher 2, he brought over from the
She's having a big year too. She's in a few movies.
And then also from James Gunn when he did Peacemaker, which is a great show. I'm going to butcher this. Chukwudi Iwuji. He's like
I know what you're talking about.
He's the main villain in this. He's the high evolutionary in this movie. And James Gunn has been saying he's like the best actor and character he's ever worked with. So we'll see.
Yeah, this one's gonna be fun. My number 6 is probably not in your anticipated because I don't think you have any interest in watching this. But I Cast alone, I was excited for this. Then the first trailer came out, and I was like, this shows a lot of promise. I'm more positive than negative on it. And then the second trailer solidified it for me, and that is Super Mario Bros. I love Super Mario Brothers games, the originals. When I say that, I mean like 1, 2, 3. When N64 came in, yes, I know Super Mario World, all them were great, but I kind of like grew out of Mario at that point. This cast, say what you will about Chris Pratt being Mario, I don't give a shit, because everyone's gonna sound goofy doing "It's me and Mario." It's gonna sound stupid anyway. To me, the one thing I'm most excited about is Charlie Day as Luigi. I am so excited and happy for Charlie Day as Luigi. Jack Black as Bowser. I love Jack Black, but to me, he's so Po from Kung Fu Panda that I feel like when he tries to act like a badass as Bowser, it's just gonna sound like Po. But I'm sure it'll be great. Anya Taylor-Joy as Princess Peach. I like that Princess Peach is not playing the damsel in distress. She's actually kind of playing a badass. The second trailer showed Donkey Kong. It showed Mario Kart-esque. They could be throwing a lot into this movie, maybe too much, instead of keeping the simple story. But I feel like for them, I feel like they're going for broke, kind of like the Lego movies do, because they don't know what's going to happen with this franchise. So they really just want to say, hey, if we're going to make one, let's just make it. And if anything can tell us from Sonic, I have more faith in Super Mario Brothers working now after Sonic success than I did before Sonic came out. I think the voice cast is great. I think visually this movie looks fantastic. The only thing that worries me is that it's made by Illumination, which does Despicable Me's, The Minions, and I don't like those movies. So that worries me. But I think with the cast and the Mario Brothers thing behind it, I'm actually really, really excited for this film. And I know this is nowhere near on your list.
It did not make my list. Like you, I mean, I was a big fan. I played the first 3 Super Mario Brothers movies, games when they came out, and I loved those things. But like you, after that, I grew out of it. I never owned any of the other games. I didn't have the N64. I didn't play Mario. I don't know if I've ever played Mario Kart, things like that. What's it, Super Smash Brothers? Whatever they show up in some characters.
Yeah,
I've never played any of that stuff.
Mario Kart.
And honestly, I just don't care anymore. It's like I see Mario, I'm like, oh, great, another Nintendo, whatever. I'm just sick of Mario. This movie coming out, so I have no attachment, no love for I don't hate the character. I don't care about it at all. I think the trailer looks fun. I'm definitely going to see it, and I do hope it's fun, and I think it probably will be. It just was not going to be on the most anticipated list.
What was your number 6?
My 6 was Guardians.
Okay.
And I'll save you some time. We've already talked about my 5 Argyle, 4 Havoc, and 3 John Wick.
Yeah, I only got 2 movies left to talk about. I'm sure one of my 2 is on your list, and maybe my other one. But unless I'd be surprised if this didn't make your list at all. I'd be a little sad if it wasn't, which I might be ready to. But my number 5 is a movie that was on my anticipated last year. We didn't know anything about it. All we knew was a 1-sentence synopsis and the 2 leads. That's all we knew. And up until about a month ago, that's still all we knew. When I first made this list, I still was like, I'm still putting this movie on my anticipated, even though we still don't know jack shit about this movie. Then they dropped the trailer. And I'm watching the trailer and I'm like, okay, all right. And then it drops a tagline. And from there, this movie shot from like the 30s to number 5. And that is 65. Like I said, I talked about this movie last year. Adam Driver basically crash lands on a mysterious planet with Ariana Greenblatt, who plays young Gamora. She was in Love and Monsters. Great young little actress. They're on this mysterious planet. They don't know where it landed, but what you find out is that they actually went back in time 65 million years ago in the land of the dinosaurs. And it's Adam Driver with future tech and guns against dinosaurs. This is Jurassic Park, and like not really Jurassic Park, but you know what I mean. It's a dinosaur movie that actually looks fun, awesome, and you know what? Jurassic World has burned me the last 2 movies, so I'm so flippin' excited for this movie. Like I said, I remember watching this trailer. Oh yeah, and Alexandra Shipp, who we both like. Don't know who she plays in the movie yet. Maybe she's an older version of Ariana Greenblatt's character. We don't quite know yet, but this is a movie that, like I said, I was watching the trailer and I was like, okay, cool. And then as soon as 65 million years ago popped up, I immediately went, It got super excited, and we see T-Rexes, we see Velociraptors. I'm so amped for this movie. I cannot wait to see this. I hope it's even remotely as good as I think it's going to be in my brain. Did this crack your anticipated or not at all? Because I mean, if it didn't crack it at all, there are some movies you put on your list, and it's like, how does 65 not even make it?
It was one of the final cuts.
Oh
It's
my
like
god!
it's like 36 on my list.
Like it's one thing last year to not even have the Batman on your list, but 65, you had come on, man.
Well, it's because I mean Adam Driver is super hit and miss for me because I think that he tries to take himself a little bit too serious. He's a little full of himself sometimes.
I had sex and now I'm making nachos. Come on.
So, no, sometimes no, I said sometimes. You know, in that Logan Lucky, some other stuff, he's a ton of fun. But I mean, this obviously isn't a comedy, so I don't expect him to be comedic in it. But he was in it, and like you said, it's basically Jurassic Park meets Planet of the Apes because he goes into space and crashes. Doesn't realize till later he's on Earth. It just happens to be a different time. It just he went backwards instead of forward.
The dinosaurs are not talking in this movie. Well, at least we don't know yet.
I just meant in terms of the fact they are back on Earth and they don't realize it. But yeah, I mean, like you said, we didn't know much about this movie coming out. I had no idea it had anything to do with dinosaurs until the trailer dropped for it, a couple months ago, whatever it was.
None of us.
And so I'm definitely anticipating more than I was. I don't know what it is about it that makes me not just be super sold on it. I almost feel like it's almost trying to go for like how there's like that A24 elevated horror. I almost feel like it's trying to be that kind of, like I like Annihilation, where it's trying to be an artsy.
Annihilation was fucking amazing.
Annihilation was okay. It was just a little full of itself.
You are so biased against A24. You can.
But this isn't A24 though.
No, but here's the thing. Here's the thing with you. I could show you a trailer of an awesome looking movie. You'd be like, that actually looks really good. And then I peel back the thing that says A24, and you immediately go, no, never mind. Like that is so
Ex Machina, Green Room,
Everything Everywhere All at Once.
To some extent, Everything Everywhere All at Once. I like it. I just think it's overrated. But I mean, I am looking forward to this. Like I said, it was probably the last movie that got cut off my list. But it was just like I'm looking forward to it, but I need to see more and know a little bit more about it. And also some of the effects in the trailer were a little bit iffy. But again, like you said with Indiana Jones, I think they'll be even cleaner by the time the movie comes out.
I think Brian does this because he knows it was going to be high on my list, so he made an effort to not have it. Just like the Batman last year, like he was like he if you go back and watch last year's anticipated, we were like the last two, and I realized that the Batman is not on his list, and my face is like I think he does this intentionally. I think he goes, which movie is Sean gonna get the most livid about if I don't have it? It's gonna be 65. I'm gonna take that one off my list. I guarantee you, Brian did that. That's my number 5. My number 4 was Mission Impossible: Dark Reckoning Part 1. My number 3 was Creed 3. And my number 2. My number 1 was Guardians Volume 3. So all I've got left is my number 2. So I got one
number 2 then.
What about you?
What's that?
How many movies you got left?
I just have number 2 left.
I think we both. Let's put it this way, Brian. If this is not your number 2,
okay. Let me just first throw it out. Sean was wrong earlier. He said that he thinks Guardians of the Galaxy will be the best Marvel film this year. It'll be the best MCU film
movie. MCU.
He said Marvel. He meant MCU because the best Marvel film coming out this year is probably going to be Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. When the first one was coming out, I'm like, this Sony's just making the same mistakes they made before, just trying to cash in on the one license they have from Marvel. Cash in by oh, they already have a franchise going, but let's make an animated version too. I'm like, oh my god, they're gonna ruin. They had a good thing going. And I saw the trailer. I'm like, that's an interesting art style. No, it's completely different than anything we're seeing right now. So I'm intrigued to see it. And then I went and saw it, and it's just a phenomenal movie. I mean, maybe one of my favorite animated movies of all time, because not only is the animation is an amazing, beautiful, unique style to it, which is it's been copied a little bit in the time since then by.
Well, that's because it broke the mold, so now everyone wants to do it.
Yeah, a lot of people trying to copy it, which I don't mind. I would like to see more movies in this style, but they clearly were the first one. And we've only seen like basically one trailer of this, and I think it looks just as good here. But it's beautiful looking, but more importantly, it was a ton of fun, which is what I like in my movies, and that has a lot to do with the fact that they are produced by Lord and Miller. So there's definitely a lot of comedy in it. But then the characters, though, I think what really sold this thing, because yes, it could have just been, oh, here's all these different, Spider-Man from different universes. It could have just been gimmicky, and to some extent it is, but it's a gimmick that works. But then you have Haley Steinfeld, in there, and you have even with Nicolas Cage when he was doing Spider-Man Noir and things like that. They were all unique characters, but they all fit, and none of them seemed like they were the weak link. Every one of them was amazing, and you
They
felt the
somehow made
relationships.
Spider Pig work, or Spider Ham, or Spider Pig,
Spider-Ham.
They somehow made that work. How the fuck did they make that work?
Yeah, and in this one, it looks like they're blowing the doors wide open, because if you watch the trailer, there's so many Spider-Man versions and things. Even if you freeze frame it, you wouldn't be able to. I'm sure some nerd out there has done it, but you wouldn't be able to identify who all of these different ones are. So it looks like it's going to be one of those movies, like we talked with John Wick and things like that, where the sequel just opens up the world even wider, because now they've set kind of the idea of what this is, and now they can just explore it and not have to explain it to you so much anymore. And so I am really looking forward to this one. It is my number 2 most anticipated.
Yeah, we're both in agreement. Everything that you've said, I 100% back you on. This was a movie that when it first got announced, I immediately went, no, this isn't going to work. This isn't going to be great. And then was completely blown away by this film. I've watched this movie so many times. Voice casting from the first one, Liev Schreiber as Fisk or Kingpin was great in this. Everyone in the cast was great the first time around. Jake Johnson, I love Jake Johnson, and I feel like he was a great Peter B. Parker. Miles Morales, like I said, Haley Steinfeld. New additions for this one: Daniel Kaluuya, Issa Rae? Issa Rae, Jason Schwartzman, Oscar Isaac's obviously gonna have a bigger role. That first teaser trailer was crazy. The actual trailer I thought was even better. Visually, this movie looks phenomenal. The cast is great. The story had a lot of heart in the last one. I cannot wait for this. This movie, I think, has all the easiest weight on it in terms of people backing this film, but has an enormous amount of pressure to make sure that it delivers. Even if the movie is not a hit, like compared to the first one, I think people are still going to enjoy it. But I feel like because this movie was such a knock out of the park home run the first time around, I feel like it's got an enormous amount of pressure on it to stick the landing a second time. I cannot wait for this film to come out. This was one of the more wasn't this technically supposed to come out last year and they pushed it?
It was originally coming out last year, yeah.
Yeah, and they pushed it. This is a movie that you and I have been eagerly anticipating.
But they also broke it into 2, so we'll see what the next one is.
Yes, because it is a part 1, like Mission Impossible is. So, yeah, we can't wait. And yes, it is probably gonna be the best Marvel movie. Guardians will be the best MCU movie. But yeah, at the end of the day, Spider-Verse, if you have never seen this movie, go out of your way. If you're like, yeah, I don't want to watch a Spider-Man cartoon, I only want to watch live action, watch this damn movie. This movie's great. It won the Oscar, for crying out loud.
Well, let's not set that as the standard, because there's some bad Oscar winners.
I'm talking about for animation, though. Like, no one expected Spider-Man to win the Oscar for animated, and then it went all out of nowhere. The Sony animation style, like I said, it revolutionized something to the point where everyone wants to, modelize and establish it. This is the only one that's actually, I think, worked well enough to continue it, because they're the ones that started it. Not having Lord and Miller back, though, are they back or no? I know they're not directing it.
Well, no, they didn't direct the first one either.
I know
they're just producers on it. Yeah.
I don't know if they're writing it again.
They have Lord and Miller are the writers. There's Lord and Miller, and then a guy named Dave Callahan.
Yeah, so having them back as well is definitely going to help. Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse Part 1, our number 2 most anticipated film of the year. At least we lined up somewhere near the bottom there. But those are most anticipated films of 2023. We talked about a lot of films on this video. Here's hoping, which I think was Spider-Verse. It's very likely this year that some of these top tier films are going to end up in our top 10 movies of the year when we get to the year's end. Spider-Verse probably will be. If not, it's going to be undisappointed. It's going to be high. We hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys did, go hit that like, share, and subscribe button to the channel so you guys stay up to date with all the latest videos pop up on the Movie Crusaders. Of course, the follows on all the social media outlets you see below. Coming up next, there's not a whole lot of big movies coming out in January that I can think of. I mean, Megan just came out, and I've heard some crazy positive reviews, but I really have no interest in wanting to see this film.
I would give it a positive review. It is not worth a crazy positive review. It was fine.
Yeah, okay. Pale Blue Eye came out on Netflix. I actually thought it was really well done. I thought Bale was great. Henry Melling, who everyone just knows as Fat Little Dursley from Harry Potter, this dude has grown up to be a really solid actor. He's great in the film. It's on Netflix. Check it out. It is a slow burn, so if you're okay with that, I think you guys are really going to enjoy it. That is not Brian's cup of tea, so he did not watch it. But I would definitely have given it about an 86%. I'm not going to shoot a review for it, but here's my little mini review right now. I'd give it an 86%. In terms of what's coming out in January, I don't have the list in front of me.
I looked and there's really nothing even worth noting.
Which is why we also aren't really probably starting the weekly Crusaders until some point near February, because there isn't a lot of great January movies to talk about for our new show or our returning show. But nonetheless, we will be back as always with videos, fun stuff to talk about here and there. But we got through at least our end of the year stuff, but we actually have one video left, and that is the second annual Movie Crusaders Awards, where Brian and I have special reward categories such as Best Fight, Best Action Scenes, the You Done Fucked Up A-Rod or Aaron Awards. We got plenty of those awards where we talk about all the movies of 2022 and who got these special awards. And then, of course, once they unveil the Oscar nominations, we'll come out with our own version of the Oscars where we'll nominate our best actor, actress, supporting, and all that kind of stuff. So we do have those videos coming out here very shortly, so be on the lookout for that. Anything else, Brian, before we cut this off?
No, we covered it.
All right. Here's hoping that 2023 is a better year than 2022, and here's hoping that at least 90% of our movies come out in 2023. My name's Sean Waskrug. With me, as always, is Brian Michaels. We are the Movie Crusaders, and until next time, in case we don't see you, good morning, good afternoon, and good night, Movie Crusaders.
You're still here. It's over. Go home.